Hey, what's up, everybody? Thank you guys for joining the stream. Welcome to another RWBY discussion. Sorry that the stream has been delayed this past week. Hopefully that all doesn't change the fact that we have a lot to talk about this chapter. Hey,
Calm
Shane
down.
Miller.
I'm not here for your money.
I really liked how the episode started on Cinder's raid the Bronwyn tribe. She probably made Shady Man disappear. Can't wait to see what happens next.
Oh, jeez. That's what you were saving. You were saving your pun for this moment. How's everybody doing? Thank you guys all for joining. Oh man, yeah. He told me. Shane told me that he had a pun that he was saving for the right moment to use, which was the second the stream started. So, thank you guys all for joining. Hopefully you guys all enjoyed your week. Yeah. So, as you guys know, these streams typically are supposed to happen on Tuesdays. For the last 2.5 weeks or so, I've been finding myself getting a little delayed to where I have to push the streams back to Wednesday. The last 2 weeks they were on Wednesday, and it was going to be the same case this week. I was supposed to stream this discussion initially on Tuesday. Something came up. I had to push it to Wednesday, and then I was sick all day yesterday. I woke up sick, so I couldn't, I didn't really have it in me to be able to stream, which must have been something minor. Like, it was enough to where I couldn't stream, but it wasn't serious enough to where I'm still sick. So, I basically pushed everything back. Like, this is the latest that I've ever done a discussion, a Thursday, which we're 2 episodes away from the next chapter, for first members and whatnot. So, wait, was it Thursday last week? I thought I did it Wednesday last week. I don't ever remember it being this late in the week that I did a discussion. I'm feeling a lot better. I'm actually feeling like I was. It doesn't even feel like I was sick yesterday. That's how it feels. Yeah, my discussion last week was on Wednesday. Yeah, Thursday's the furthest throughout the week that I've ever done a discussion. But a lot of interesting things to take away from this chapter. A lot of things, a lot of parallels that I noticed, which I'm going to get into once we start the discussion and everything else. Did you just start, or am I late? No, I literally just started up. I've been streaming for 6 minutes, and for the first 4 minutes, I had music playing while I set everything up and arranged everything. So if you're joining right now, you are currently on time. So welcome to the stream. Thank you guys for joining. How's everyone's week been overall? I kind of want to just get caught up in a conversation before we start discussing stuff. Not so good day for the internet today with net neutrality and whatnot, but the fight's not over. It still has to be presented in a court before it's passed. So, that's literally all social media is talking about today, so it's kind of unavoidable to talk about it. I don't really have obviously I'm for, freedom of expression, freedom of speech, freedom of thought and whatnot, free internet, fair and easy for everyone, so it doesn't get too corporate, it doesn't get too corrupt where you're paying out the ass to be able to, say whatever you want on the internet. So it sucks. I mean, it sucks overall, especially because, moments like this make me feel like there are some moments that are just hopeless, right? Like, despite millions of people coming together, millions of people voicing their opinions, voting, calling their congressman, calling, anybody that they need to represent them, this still happened, so certain things like that are like, when certain things like that happen, it just makes me feel like it's all for naught, you know what I mean? But like I said, it's not over until it's over. So this is just one of the many phases before it's legitimately legislated and turned over and redrafted and whatnot. So I can't help but feel that way to an extent, so that's probably all I'm going to say on net neutrality as a whole, just because it is a topic of conversation. It's basically the topic of conversation for today, and I'm pretty sure for the coming days. So, oh, you're playing Breath of the Wild? I'm actually getting back to streaming that. I have Breath of the Wild myself, and Monday is where I'm going to start getting back to consistent Monday, I'm going to start getting back to consistently streaming on Twitch. And I've decided from here on out that there's a lot of games that I'm going to be streaming in the future. Like, I'm going to get back to streaming Breath of the Wild, Super Mario Odyssey, Dark Souls, Kingdom Hearts.
Calm
and
down.
Oh, J-Rock, welcome back, dude.
Yo, Arnold, what's up?
What up,
Glad
dude?
to be in the stream today. This should get me through work splendidly.
Nice.
Hope
Great
you
to hear
had a
it.
good week and keep up the good shit, homie. Can't wait to hear your opinions on this episode.
Yeah, this episode had a lot of dissection and some things that I mentioned in my reaction that I didn't even think of until after the fact when I went back and rewatched it. So you guys are gonna get a little aspect of some deeper level of thought when it comes to mainly Raven's part. Like, I feel like a lot of the discussion, I think, is gonna come from the interaction between Cinder and company in Raven's tribe. You know, with the whole negotiations and things like that. But J-Rock, thank you so much for the support. Love to see you back in here. Hopefully work goes well for you. And I'm glad to make it a little bit easier on your end. But let's see. But yeah, so I'm going back. I'm gonna be getting back to streaming a lot, starting on Monday. And one thing that I tried to do on Twitch that I kind of realized was a fool's errand, really, was I was always trying to be like, okay, every game that I stream on Twitch, I'm going to bring it to YouTube. And that ended up becoming more than I can handle. So what I'm going to do is, as a way of kind of incentivizing people to subscribe to my Twitch channel when I play video games, I'm going to pick one series. Like, whenever I play like a plethora of games, I'm going to choose one game out of that plethora that I'm covering, and I'm going to migrate that over to YouTube. Just as a way to kind of, kind of flesh out the content so it's not all just Rooster Teeth based, like, like RWBY or Red versus Blue or an unboxing or something like that. And there are some new formats that I'm working out right now for when RWBY's done, so I can have like a diverse range of videos after RWBY's done. Like, I'm gonna be getting back to Red versus Blue. I'm gonna have, some content for video games and whatnot. So there's gonna be, I'm gonna do a poll. Like, I'll have like a poll up, and I'll be like, hey, for this month I'm gonna be playing these games. What game would you like me to bring over to that, like, migrate from Twitch to YouTube over to the channel? That way I'm still getting, like, I'm still editing, but it's not like a massive workload of editing that I have to do when it comes to doing games and things like that. Let's see. You should do more Kingdom Hearts. So Kingdom Hearts is the biggest example, right? Like, I started out that game, and I played all of the games already. I'm waiting for Kingdom Hearts 3, and I realized that when I started putting up Kingdom Hearts gameplay on the channel, it wasn't getting a lot of attention, and I feel like that's because Kingdom Hearts is, like, really old, and it was only relevant to people who hadn't played it, really. And since I had already played it, it doesn't really make sense to make gaming content like a let's play, really. Like, what's the point of doing a let's play if you've already played the game, So I'm really gonna only be doing that with games that I haven't played, and games that I feel are a little bit more relevant and with the times and in the current generation, just so it has relevance, and it's something that I've never played before, so at the end of the day I know people will want to watch it. So, no, slow chat isn't on. We haven't started the discussion necessarily. I hope you get well, man. Catching the beginning of your stream before I have to go to a bonfire tonight. Hearth, thank you very much for joining, dude. Appreciate it. Hopefully your night's going well too. Yeah, I'm feeling a lot better. Thank you for the positive vibes. Appreciate it. But yeah, so we're gonna be getting into the discussion. I hope you guys enjoy. Like, as always, I'm going to be putting up slow chat right now. Give me one moment. I actually have to pull it up on my... I gotta pull it up on my screen somehow. Give me 1 second, guys. Let's see. Where are you? Slow chat. Lord knows I need you. Alright, advanced settings. Slow chat mode enabled. Boom, there you go. So, as always, slow chat is limited to one comment every 45 seconds, just so things aren't hectic and crazy and all over the place and whatnot. So I hope you guys understand. Give me 1 sec. So I got caught up on something. Alright. right, there you go. Yeah, don't worry, mods. I'm definitely thinking about you. Hey, is MurderofBirds is your set? Wait, what? I'm set? What did I think about the episode? I enjoyed it. I mean, I don't really ever have an issue when it comes to RWBY.
I look forward to emotionally bonding with you, teammates.
J-Rock, thank you for subbing on Twitch. Thank you so much, dude. I appreciate that. If you're on Twitch, look in the description section for the hyperlink. You'll have access to my Discord server now. Love to chat with you, man. Thank you so much for the support, dude. I appreciate it. And Abby Jenna 29, thank you for following me over on Twitch as well. I appreciate it, if you are in here, of course. But yeah, I never really have an issue with enjoying an episode of RWBY, right? Like, I don't think there's ever really been an episode that I watched and I was like, I hated that episode, or I found the episode boring. I think that really comes down to expectations. And when your like, I feel like I'm beating a dead horse because I've already really expressed my thoughts on expectations and how I go into certain things so that way I'm not let down or disappointed. This episode in particular, I saw a lot of people in the community who found the episode to be boring or unnecessary or or like a lot of people saying that it was bad. And I personally couldn't relate to that because at the end of the day, you know, we got new dynamics.
To emotionally bonding with you, teammates.
Ace Greenland, thank you as well for subbing with Twitch Prime over on my Twitch channel. I appreciate it very much. You also have access to my Discord server in the description portion on Twitch. Thank you so much for the support. But yeah, I feel more and more, personally, this is from like strictly observation, I feel with every passing episode, every episode that we don't have action, people tend to be more and more vocal about how bad an episode is. Typically, I feel like a lot of people that vocalize in that respect feel that if there's no action in an episode, then it's not a good episode. And I can understand that being the initial appeal of RWBY, you know what I mean? Like, the action was what kind of kicked off the show with the trailers and whatnot. And, you know, I feel it's in a weird realm, at least right now, especially since last weekend's chapter, like chapter 8, like left the cliffhanger of Gira, you know, and Corsac and Fennec. And then this week, we didn't necessarily get a full-off conclusion to that fight. It seems it reset up to something, you know, that's also going to transpire from that. So, I can understand pacing being an issue. I can understand, I don't know. I feel like a lot of times whenever I see someone complaining about RWBY, it's usually the fact that there's no fighting scenes or there's no action. And to me, that's like the last thing it's not the last thing I care about. Obviously, the aspect of action was really heavily enforced because Monty was he was the lead animator for a lot of those fights. And, you know, Shane, you know, was his right-hand man, and they had Dylan for volume 3. And, you know, things changed and, you know, certain people aren't there anymore. So it's like, obviously that has to be taken into consideration, and I feel like a lot of people don't take that into consideration when a change in pace comes at the cost of animation. So, like I said, personally, it's new to me. I always go into the episode, I'm like, if this is what they're giving us, rather than bitch and complain about what it could be, I'm just gonna take it for what it is and appreciate it for what it is, and, you know, have those thoughts in mind that I know that eventually things are going to pick up. So that's my personal stance on it. I really don't have any other qualms with the show as a whole, because, you know, at the end of the day, this is their story to tell, and I'm here, I'm along for the ride, you know. So that's how I look at it. So without further ado, getting all that rambling out of the way, because that was a point of mention as well for this week in particular. Volume 5 is exposition, talking, walking, and feels. Yeah, I mean, every show has that. I mean, I guess because Rooster Teeth does it in a different fashion, or does it in a way that comes off a lot more mundane and repetitive, or just overall slow. I can understand where people are coming from, but personally, I don't share the same type of mindset as those people. Let's see. Oh, in regards to that, I do have something interesting that I want to mention that I feel like we can all look forward to for the next chapter, or for the volume overall, when we get to it in the discussion. So, so happy I can finally see one of your live streams. I've always missed them because your lives were too late for me. I have a 6-hour offset time. Oh, you're from France. Oh, that's pretty cool. Pink Spirit Cosplay, welcome. I hope you enjoy. I'm more annoyed by the lack of new music besides the opening and character. We've gotten a lot of music already, actually. I feel like the music that we've been given were featured in the character, not the character short. Yeah, the character short. So we obviously have the new opening song, Triumph. We have The Path of Isolation. We have Smile. We have Ignite. So we already have 4 new songs off of the soundtrack. I mean, I understand where you're coming from. Like, it's not embedded into the actual show proper, but like 4 songs, and we got them one after the other. We have a lot of previews to look forward to. And I think, personally, it's a lot better to see a song or hear a song on the soundtrack that's not featured in the volume, right? Like, I May Fall is my favorite song from volume 1, and we didn't even hear it in the show. We didn't actually hear it in the show proper until volume 3. And I really like that. I was like, holy shit, it's a song. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, I don't want to hear all of the songs that come out, because then I feel like they're going to be a little bit reduced, so to speak, when I actually get the soundtrack. Yeah, so if you are new to the stream, thank you guys so much for joining. I hope you guys enjoy the discussions. These go for a few hours, so I will preface by saying that. But if you don't have all the time in the world to stick around and watch, these do get uploaded to the channel afterwards on-demand fashion. So, like, you can do it. Like, a lot of people watch these, or listen to it rather, like while they're doing homework or while they're doing desk work or stuff like that. So, I hope you guys enjoy, and we are gonna get into the discussion now. Let's see. Oh, and another good thing, OBS didn't screw me over this week. I actually have all of my screenshots in OBS. I actually had to double check like an hour before the stream started in case something came up, because the last 2 weeks, OBS has been giving me a lot of trouble, a lot of problems, really, when it comes to, you know, the format and the structure of how, you know, I do one thing, and then OBS is like, yeah, you're gonna do it again. So I've had to deal with it for a while. Yeah, OBS is behaving now. Let's see.
Calm down. We're not here for your money.
Zuko!
Finally joining while it's live, so I wanted to say hi.
Hello,
Japan
how are
time
you?
Zone and Navy work hours.
Oh my god.
Here, lol. Anyway, love your reactions and discussions for RWBY.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much.
Can't wait to see what happens between Blake and Ilya.
Yeah.
Thanks, bro. Keep up the great work.
Thank you so much, Zuko. I appreciate that. Japan time. So I don't know Japan time, so I don't know what time, like how severe the time is for you compared to me. It's 6:20 where I am, so I'm not really good at time conversions for different time zones. But thank you very much for the donation. I greatly appreciate that. Love the fact that you enjoy the videos. They're gonna be coming along pretty well for the next couple of weeks for Volume 5. And great to have you in the stream. Thank you so much. Let's see. It's 8 a.m. in Japan. Oh, wow. So you're fresh, bright, and early. Interesting. Okay, so the chapter obviously starts out Raven's Bandit Tribe. So I mentioned this last weekend at the end of my... Actually, I mentioned it in both my live stream discussion and my reaction video. I was like, knowing Rooster Teeth, knowing their track record, knowing the fact of, like... The fact that Chapter 8 left us on such a high level of hype when it came to Gira and his transformation and fighting against Corsac and Fennec and not really knowing what was going to happen, I literally said, I was like, knowing Rooster Teeth, they set up Cinder and company at Raven's Bandit Camp a few chapters back. I was like, I wouldn't be surprised if they flipped the script on us and they gave us this chapter and they held off a little bit on the menagerie setting. And lo and behold, this is what we started off on. So I was immediately right. Cinder and company coming here to negotiate, to talk to Raven. Her tribe is pretty much ass. Like I've stated that from the beginning. I don't know why. Like Raven's Raven's way of life, right? It's like survival of the fittest. The strong die. The strong live, the weak die out. But she goes to such great lengths to protect her tribe members when they themselves are really considered weak, right? Like, most of them got bodied by Yang, and even now, like, they couldn't even handle, like, Cinder and whatnot, so, you know, they just, like, they just let things happen, and they decided, oh, our leader will take care of it. So, for Raven having that mentality of, like, strong survive, weak die, a lot of her tribe is pretty much fodder. And I've mentioned that for a while now. And I just think that it's crazy that she's still, like, even after everything, she's still willing. Like, everything she's doing, I understand it's for the tribe and as a leader, but it seems like nobody in the tribe is very capable in and of themselves. At least they don't give off that vibe to me, right? Like Shady Man, for example. I guess he came across the wrong person, like Yang, for example, but, like, I guess they really are bottom. I feel like this bandit tribe are bottom feeders, right? Like, they go and attack people who really can't defend themselves. They go and attack tribes and villages and nomads and stuff like that. They will never pick a fight with someone that would actually, like, mess them up.
I must say it. Episode was bad. There can only be so much dick teasing in one volume.
Oh God, Josh.
And this episode finally pushes the envelope too far. Volume 5 is officially in my bad graces in terms of pacing. Fight me. PLZ don't I bruise easy.
Oh God. Like I said, I kind of went through the spiel of that at the beginning, Josh. I don't know if you just joined now, but I understand that sentiment for a lot of people in terms of, like, action versus, like, everything else that's happening. Like, the lack of action, I feel like is becoming a little bit how do I word it? I'm not gonna say, like, people, like, the attention span of people just, like, it just kind of goes out the window unless they have something flashy in front of their eyes to keep them preoccupied. I don't want to come off as, like, rude or ignorant.
Down. But we're not here for your money.
Rip Shady
Man. You will probably not be missed.
Aw, man.
Much like P Money.
Oh, well, unlike P Money, unlike Shady Man, P Money is definitely missed. But no, I completely understand that, but I do feel like, given the circumstances at Rooster Teeth and given, like, their positioning when it comes to their animation team, when it comes to action sequences, fight sequences, I can overlook that, and again, I'm a unique kind of specimen in this regard, because I don't go into any chapter of RWBY being like, I want to see this, or I'm expecting to see this, or this better happen, or I'm going to be upset. So I literally watch the chapter, I take it for what it's worth, and I look at it for what it's worth, and that's really all I can work with, instead of me getting flustered or getting worked up about something that didn't come to my expectations. Let's see. I'm just reading the comments based on that. For me, it botched following up with a well-built chapter before it. It was better in hindsight after Volume 5 is done. Yeah, exactly. I feel like as a whole, we can really decide whether or not, like, because my thing too right now is, like, I feel like a lot of people are complaining now, but if Rooster Teeth in fact does pick up the pace within the next 5 chapters, all will be forgiven by people, right? And I feel like that kind of nullifies the whole point of getting upset. Like, why are you going to get upset now when you could potentially have a payoff that's worth all of this waiting by the end of the show, right? So that's like one of my biggest mindsets. Like, my biggest mindset is, like, seeing someone that's going to complain about these chapters going into it, but then by the end of Volume 5, they're like, oh my gosh, this was actually a really good volume. It's like, well, then what was all that complaining for? So that again, that's another great thing to look into, like, hindsight. Especially so I don't come off, like, looking back on it, I'm not like, oh man, I was really harsh. I should have waited, for everything to be developed before, passing judgment. So, but yeah, like I said, everyone's different. Some people have a lot less patience than I do. I think that's another big thing too. Like, I've lived with, my mother is the most impatient person I've ever met. in my life. So by that proxy, I have developed like an insurmountable amount of patience living with her and, you know, her raising me and having to deal with that growing up. So I feel like, again, I am I'm kind of like the outlier when it comes to how, you know, the general audience of people view RWBY and view its pacing and view, you know, things that, you know, might be good about it or bad about it or need work or things that are lackluster or anything like that. So, what are your thoughts on Easy Peasy's video? I don't know who Easy Peasy is. So yeah, I guess those are my thoughts. But overall, getting back to the discussion, so one thing that I did notice, and my friend John told me about this too, and I was like, holy shit. I mentioned it, but I didn't really look that much into it, is that Raven's sword is a lot shorter than it was in Volume 2. Now, we kind of came down to the fact that either A, it's just redesigned in the Maya engine, and maybe that's why it looks a lot smaller than when it was in Poser, or B,
calm down. We're not here for your money.
Oh.
To clarify, any episode in this volume, 9 included, could stand well when put in the right place.
Okay.
But there's far too much hard cuts, cliffhangers, and talking in a row for me to find it enjoyable.
Okay.
I'm not hyped for RWBY. That's sad.
Oh, okay. I understand what you mean, Josh. And why the hell do you have so many different accounts? Zeno the Critic, Clarified Zeno. I guess it makes sense based on whatever comment you're gonna leave. Like, if it's like Clarified Zeno, he's here to clarify things. Critic Zeno, he's got a lot of hard points to make. I find that to be, it almost feels like you have like multiple personalities. But I find that kind of interesting. The sword extends. It did so in volume. I don't know if the sword extends. I think it just. I know exactly what you're talking about. Like, when the sword comes out, it's extended far more than what it actually looks like sheathed. And I'm wondering. Hold on, actually, let me see it. Yeah, I'm wondering if maybe that was just like a shortcut that they did to make the sword look a lot bigger. Because we didn't see her. Did we see her sheath her sword in Volume 2? Because that would have to, you know what I mean? Like, the sheath didn't look the same size or the same length as the blade itself. And I can understand them, like, getting away with that for the sake of making it look cooler or making it look so that she doesn't have, like, a giant-ass freaking, you know, weapon, like, sheath harness thing on her. So, I do think that maybe that was a, what's it called? Like, they were just kind of cutting corners in that regard to make it a lot more cooler of a visual appeal, because we didn't even know who the hell she was. And then on top of that, in a few chapters back, when she made the portal for Yang, her sword was not as long as it was in Volume 2 either. If I remember correctly, like, when she like grabs the sword, makes the portal, and then she puts her sword back, it doesn't look anywhere as long as it did in Volume 2. So, I mean, that could be up in the air. It would be weird too, like, how the hell does your sword fold? But yeah, and then on top of that, here she's sharpening it. So we came down to two conclusions. We were like, okay, either one, they redesigned the sword after Volume 2, you know, to align it better, to look a lot better, with the design and in Maya, or this is a different blade, because as we know in her roulette, like her sheath roulette, like, there's a bunch of different colored blades, and all of them could be different sizes, different widths, different lengths. So this could very much just be a different sword in that chamber of swords that she has. So that could be another one too. Let's see. Also, she doesn't need her sword to make portals. Yeah, she doesn't need her sword to make portals either. I guess she just does that to look cool at this point. Yeah, she sheathed and unsheathed her Udachi, but she shouldn't have been able to the way she did it. Yeah, exactly. So I feel like it was a little bit of cutting corners in Volume 2, which I'll give them a pass on, especially just because like Poser in and of itself is like it was very what's it called? It's just an inferior form of software that they were using to animate versus an actual animating software like Maya. So Monty made it work, so I can see it, you know, I can see it giving it a pass in that regard. Let's see. What are your thoughts? Murder, hey, what are your thoughts? What are your thoughts going to be? What are your thoughts going to be for a Vernal versus Cinder fight? You know, since they're both maidens. Hashtag maiden fight. I feel like it's still possible. I have a few things that I want to mention on that because this week in particular, a lot of people are bringing to the forefront that maybe Vernal is not the Spring Maiden. I won't entertain that to the, as in terms of believing that, just because I feel like there's enough evidence to suggest that Vernal is the Spring Maiden based on a few cues and things that we've seen in the show so far. But a maiden versus maiden fight is incredibly hype. I mean, they were both facing off in the intro. They are both maidens, so it'd be kind of cool to see Vernal going up against Cinder. Unfortunately, I would say that it would never just be a one-on-one because Vernal would win. Like, objectively speaking, Vernal would have every capability of winning over Cinder. She's been a maiden for over 10 years, been training for over 10 years. Cinder's been a fall maiden for less than a year. So by that stretch, I couldn't see Cinder holding her own against Vernal very well unless she had the assistance of Watts, Mercury, and especially Emerald with her semblance of being able to warp the perception of other people. So it's a cool concept. I would say like by the by the summer maiden or the winter maiden, like if Cinder,
calm down,
depending on how long this show goes.
First time donating what I missed.
What did you miss? Well, first off, thank you very much for the donation, Foxtrot Disco. Very much appreciate that. We are in the very early stages of discussion for chapter 9 of volume 5. Currently talking a little bit right now about the maiden versus maiden potential of Cinder versus Vernal. I don't think that it's possible. You know what I mean? And we don't even know like the seniority, if you will, of the other two maidens. So, I mean, Cinder's always going to be at a disadvantage, right? Like Amber was the youngest and the most inexperienced of all the maidens. So basically Cinder kind of just took her place on that totem pole. So I would never be able to picture Cinder. I could picture her putting up a fight, but I could never picture her like winning over a fight one-on-one with a maiden unless she had help. Or unless she had like an aspect of her that the maidens didn't, right? Like if like her arm is really grimified, I can see that maybe being an edge. Or if Salem was able to give her some extra type of like power boost or something. But one-on-one, like one-to-one, Cinder is not beating any of the maidens. Cinder killed Ozpin, who was the goddamn wizard. Well, that remains to be seen necessarily because there are a ton of variables for that in of itself, right? Ozpin A has mentioned that his power is dwindling. He's like, I'm a wizard, but I gave away a shit ton of my power to the maidens, and I also gave a portion of my magic to Crow and Raven so that way they can become birds. So his power is not as almighty as it once was. So that's number one. Number two, he was in the body of Ozpin, like the character we know as Ozpin from the first 3 volumes, who was a much older body, a much older person than Cinder, and maybe that could have been an inherent edge as well. The fact that his body isn't young like it used to be, and we don't really know how old he was, so that could have played a role. Or my headcanon is that he threw the fight on purpose because he knew A, I can die right now, be reincarnated in a younger body, and I don't have to worry about Cinder's Fall Maiden powers going to some other random person, or even worse, someone that she knows that's on her side if she dies. So, I feel like there's too many variables to really just come down to it and be like, oh, Cinder beat Ozpin fair and square. Especially since Pyrrha put up a very good fight against him. And she's a Fall Maiden for like 5 minutes, right? And Pyrrha put up a really good fight. So, and if it wasn't for the Grim Dragon, like, crashing the tower and giving Cinder that little extra amount of leeway, like, to catch Pyrrha off guard, I feel like she would have handled herself pretty well. So, I mean, there's too many variables to really say that Ozpin straight up, flat out lost to Cinder. But, anything's possible. So yeah, this initial like setup was really interesting because, like I mentioned, I was expecting to get something like this, but then sequence of events turned out, and I was really just interested to see what was gonna happen. I didn't think a fight would break out because she told all of her people to clear out, so I was like, shit, are they really gonna go 2v4? So this was a very tense moment in the chapter for me, I would say. And I noticed this part too here, and I couldn't help but realize the parallel from from a few chapters back, chapter 4. Like, she came out of her tent the same way for Yang as she did for these four.
I think Vernal would win.
Yeah, of course.
Even at the light demonstration, Vernal just seemed to have complete control over her powers.
Yeah.
Plus, we also know Cinder barely just recovered from the hit RWBY gave her. Sadly, like you said, I doubt it'd be a one-on-one.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't even a one-on-one the first time, right, with Amber, which is understandable because they were literally outmatched. Like, you're going up against a maiden, you're gonna get bodied. So, like, Cinder, Emerald, and Mercury had to take down one maiden, and now they're going up against a maiden who has 10 years of experience, more experience than Amber. Even if you have the Fall Maiden's powers, you've had it for less than a year. You kind of are limited. It seems like either A, she's limited, or B, she just chooses to use fire, because we know maidens exert all different types of elements. Fire, ice, wind, lightning. So it seems like Cinder hasn't really leveled up necessarily to be able to harness those other elements, unless she just prefers using fire. So that was another thing too. But I like this parallel here. I did notice that they used the same background for the sky, like the same exact clouds. They just changed the colors from blue and white to like red and yellowish orange and stuff like that, like for the sunset, and then for the clear blue skies. So I noticed that as well. But everything else for the scene is a little bit different. Like, obviously, there's one person there on the top, 4 on the bottom. Raven with her helmet on in one scene, off on the next one. So I just like this little kind of parallel there for how
Why are the trees in those shots
Raven greets
different while the clouds are the exact same?
I know, it's a different angle, but it's reusable assets, which is it's not like something that, it's not like I'm gonna give minus points because of that. It's reusable assets. It's less work that they have to do to get the same type of, to set the same type of tone. So I'm completely fine with that. Why are the trees shot differently? And it's from a different angle too, if you notice. It's not like a clear cut by cut angle. So those are very much the same trees, but they seem to be cut from a different perspective. So yeah. Let's see. Minus points. Those trees are different. Well, I don't necessarily know. Like, I just feel like it is a little bit of a difference in terms of, I think it's just angled different. So maybe you're seeing it from a different perspective. Like the bottom shot's a lot further, and then the top shot's a lot closer. So, I don't know. I'm not on RWBY, so I really don't have the necessary insight for that. But I thought this was an interesting parallel of just showing and seeing how Raven greets people. I guess she doesn't discriminate. She comes out of the tent with her helmet, and if she, eventually if she's willing to be a little buddy to talking to you, she'll then take the helmet off. So I thought that was kind of interesting. So another parallel that I noticed here is Cinder, the effects that RWBY's able to utilize through the Maya engine now. You can't tell me that the previous volumes are better looking than volume 4 or 5 at this point, especially with how much particle effects and just overall scaling quality you're able to achieve with Maya. Like the fiery effect of the Maiden's powers, like for her eye, for example, right? We saw it in volume 3. We saw it a little bit in the intro for volume 2. And then we saw it mainly in volume 3, and this is the first time we're seeing it again in the Maya engine. So I'm like, this is exactly like the bottom image is what the top image would have looked like had they had Maya back then. You know what I mean? Like, that's what they were going for. Like, they finally achieved, for this image right here, they finally achieved here what they were trying to have established in previous volumes, and I really liked that. VFX continuing to grow in quality, looks more natural. Exactly, yeah. I really like that. There was a lot of parallels that I noticed from just the first scene alone that I'm going to get to as we go on. Let's see. Disappointed that all maidens basically have to have the same abilities thus far. Elemental without dust doesn't seem that unimaginable. Well, I mean, that they all got their source of power from the same person, so I don't see why it wouldn't be that. You know what I mean? It would be weirder to me if each one of them had something different when their power all comes from a single a soul source. So I don't really see anything too out of place with that. Yeah, like her bottom eye the bottom image looks like real fires like emanating from her eye. Yeah, that's another thing too. I'm wondering what Ruby's silver eyes are gonna look like too.
First time donating.
Hey,
I like how
Hutton
Raven is like, Vernal, get me my helmet so I can look cool, even though I'll just take it off later.
Yeah.
Anyways, looking forward to the rest of the stream, and I hope our patience does pay off in the end.
Yeah, thank you very much for that, Cave Bob Sponge Man. I do appreciate it. Yeah, I was wondering why she was wearing, like, it's like, okay, you're wearing your helmet, but then you eventually take, I guess it's just a form of intimidation, and a form of like, hey, I'm the head honcho, so treat me with respect. I'm wondering something though. I'm wondering like how, like I'm wondering like, so for example, like can Emerald just use her abilities on you like off the cuff, or does she have to have like a direct, like, does she have to be, so I think the times that she's used her semblance, she's had like visual contact with that person, like she can see them. Right, so I was wondering, like, maybe she was wearing her helmet and as a means of, I felt like it was on some Death Note shit, right? Like, I was like, oh, I wonder if Emerald can manipulate Raven's mind if she doesn't know what she looks like, or she doesn't have, like, like, she can't see what she looks like, or can't, like, get a direct visual representation to basically hack her mind. Visual contact, not limited to eye contact. Yeah, not eye contact, because, I mean, that'd be kind of weird. She didn't really have eye-to-eye contact with anyone that she used her abilities on. So yeah. I was just wondering on that. But yeah, I wonder what the Maya engine's gonna make this. I wonder what Ruby's silver eyes are gonna look like, or like how the VFX are gonna work for that. In the Maya engine, if we have it, once we see it again. You mean like Magneto's helmet? Yeah, kind of like that. Yeah, exactly. That's what I meant. Yeah, like Magneto's helmet basically prevents him from having his mind being tampered with. So I was like, like why do you gotta wear your helmet to everything? Like, it's no different who's gonna come to you. So I was just wondering if there was any type of special properties to the helmet itself, or if it's just like a sense of like, I'm the leader, I have to have a very leadership-esque type of
but if Emerald needed eye contact for her semblance, how did she do it en masse during Yang's fight?
No, Wait, hold on. No, she only, in Yang's fight, you're saying en masse, so you mean like on a large scale?
For your money.
Hold on.
Been saving this all week. Raven's reaction to Cinder. I'm Cinderfall, I'm the Fall Maiden, all-powerful Raven. Do you want a cookie for that? Cinder.
I saw a comment on that, actually. I forgot where I saw that, but I distinctly remember seeing a comment just like that somewhere else for the latest chapter. I think it was on the Rooster Teeth site, but basically she's kind of flexing and Raven's like, and, you know, but no, Emerald only controlled the mind of Yang. She controlled the mind of Yang to make her think that Mercury was attacking her. So the whole crowd saw her attack Mercury when in reality, because she attacked him because she thought he was attacking her, when in reality he was just standing there. So Emerald was controlling Yang's mind, and then when Mercury got lifted off on the when Mercury got lifted off onto the stretcher, she was manipulating the mind of the two paramedics, so that way when they looked at his leg, they actually saw flesh instead of metal. So yeah, she's only been able to do it on two people so far. And like I said, I don't think it was a visual. I think it's just like she has to have like visual contact of that person to be able to like seep into their mind. And then when she tries to do it with more than one person, it kind of takes a toll because it's nearly impossible to do that. So I'm so happy Cinder can talk again, and I love this chapter. It was so good. Yeah, Cinder talking again reminded me of how arrogant and like stuck up she was in previous volumes. Slow mode. Yeah, we are on slow. Yes, we have slow chat enabled. One comment every 45 seconds just for the sake of keeping things in order. Emerald has Sharingan. I don't know about that, but... So yeah, I thought this overall effect was really neat, and then we kind of get into the establishment. You guys are gonna lose me for a second here, but then we get into the establishment of obviously everyone here. She kind of gives them the introduction, basically what you just said, Pagan. You know, she's like, I'm Cinder Fall. This is my associate Arthur Watts and my disciples Emerald and Mercury, and she kind of just roasts them on the spot, which I really liked. But one thing that I also noticed here that I found to be really interesting is that we're looking, like, on the screen right now, we are looking at the manifestation of the fall of Beacon, like, in its most simplest form, right? So each one of these characters played a crucial role in the fall of Beacon for the first 3 volumes. We didn't know it at the time, but in hindsight, each one of these characters brought something very unique to the table and allowed them to turn the tables, you know, excluding the White Fang, of course, because they also were a big force when it came to, you know, sneaking Grimm into the school and, you know, having the influence of Adam, you know, to gather his followers and, you know, overall people. So, you know, first off, we have Watts, right? Dr. Arthur Watts, who we found out is a disgraced Atlesian scientist. I found that to be really interesting because I think it was last year, Volume 4, that I mentioned that, like, I was like, when we were initially talking about him, I remember bringing up, I was like, what, like, so, like, I think, like, the general consensus for Watts during Volume 4 was that he was very tech-savvy. He has a customized, what's it called? A customized scroll. He's always on his scroll, like, when we saw, like, in Volume 4, at least, when we first saw him, he was on his scroll. And, you know, he has the title of doctor, like a doctorate. So, you know, he clearly is a very intellectual person. So I was wondering, I was like, okay, he's a doctor, he's a man of science, and I thought he was more associated with Mantle. Because the first thing that came to mind is like, okay, well, why is he siding with Salem? What does he have to gain? Why is he on the enemy side, or the bad side, so to speak, quote unquote? And I thought Mantle would have been a better option because Mantle and Atlas already have like bad blood based on like how Atlas was founded, and basically Mantle, who basically built the foundation of everything that is Atlas now, basically got kicked to the side once Atlas basically became the new capital for the school and the kingdom as a whole, and they basically kind of just left Mantle to rot in the cold winter. So I thought that was the initial thing, you know, like he was maybe a part of, you know, an R&D facility that was prosperous, and then when Atlas came into power and came into influence, they basically cast him aside. But the fact that she says he's a disgraced Atlesian scientist, it makes me wonder what affiliations he has with Atlas to where he would be considered a disgrace to that kingdom, right? He's a scientist, so we already know that, you know, Atlas as a nation, you know, they're at the forefront for, you know, technological advancements in science and weaponry, etc. And I'm wondering if he has any affiliations with Ironwood, if he has any affiliations with Penny's father, because you know, Atlas was in partnership with the Schnee Dust Company to, you know, create the mechs and do all that kind of stuff. But he also mentioned that in Volume 3, he mentioned Atlas's top scientists have been working on a way to better understand aura, how it works, what it's used of, how we can capture it. And I'm wondering if maybe Watt started going into a very unethical route with aura, and, you know, how, you know, to where, but then again, you know, when push comes to shove, you know, desperate times call for desperate measures. Like, that's what they said. I mean, that's what what's her name, Glinda said. So when you think about it as a whole, I'm like, okay, what's the point? Like, why would Watts be disgraced for that? I'm just trying to think of like what led him to be disgraced and be cast aside by Atlas to where he's like, okay, I'm gonna side with Salem to get my revenge, right? And I'm pretty sure he's waiting for his opportunity whenever they go to Atlas Academy, you know. So I mean, he's here for the long haul, but for right now, like all of these other justifications, like attacking Haven, getting the relics, are a means to an end for him, because the people that did him wrong are going to have their just desserts for this entire plan. So, we have a Penny, Paul, and Dina in the chat. Why are you talking about my father? What if he is Penny's father? He's not Penny's father. I'm assuming we saw the image of Penny's father when Penny got killed on the Atlas broadcast, on the broadcast monitor. He looks like Dr. Light. Like, he has like a beard, like a white beard. He was in a white lab coat. He looked like Dr. Light from like a side shot. So no, he's not Penny's dad. But what I'm just wondering at this point, like, the moniker of him being a disgraced Atlesian scientist leads me to want to know more about his past and his affiliations with Atlas as a whole, his affiliations with Ironwood, with Penny's father, and all of that stuff. So, that's the most fascinating thing. And even though it's not canon, I'm wondering how the relationship and dynamic would work with Watts and Dr. Merlot, because Merlot Industries was founded, I believe it was founded like in the outskirts of Mountain Glen. So I don't know necessarily if he would have any type of ties with Dr. Merlot, since that was based around Vale and not anywhere else in the world. So yeah, Watts is also the brains of the operation. I mentioned that last year for sure. I was like, Watts is the brains, Hazel is the bronze, Cinder is the power, basically. Like she was the fall maiden, and then Tyrion is like the crazy like animal. He's like the animalistic side of the team, where he just goes crazy and does whatever the hell he wants, with no restraint. So that was my initial thoughts on the situation with Watts after we learned about that. I also like how Raven called out Cinder for basically tricking Emerald and Mercury into following her. Unfortunately, it seems like they didn't really look into that as much. Like, they didn't really, I don't know. It's hard to believe, or it's hard to understand and really understand Emerald and Mercury from their perspective, and not realizing Cinder is using you. Like, Cinder has her objectives, and you guys are nothing but tools for her to reach that objective. Almost like Salem using everybody here for her overall objective that we don't really know. But once they, like Raven said, like once they're objective, like once they've outlived their usefulness, they're going to be cast aside. So I was really surprised to see that Emerald and Mercury didn't question that, or didn't really have any lingering effects of like, hey, now that I think about it, maybe she is using us, A lot of people want to say as well after Volume 3 that Emerald has could be redeemed based on how she reflected on the fall of Beacon, whereas Mercury just reveled in all of it. So I don't really think there's much hope for either of them at this point, Despite their reactions during the fall of Beacon, despite their reactions of being in Salem's domain, in Volume 4, how their faces looked with the grim all around them, and they kind of looked scared and kind of looked like they were second-guessing themselves, they're still here at the end of the day. So I do feel like at the end of the day, they're all in for the plan no matter what. And I don't really know or see any, at least in the foreseeable future, I don't really see any reasonings for them to leave Cinder's side at this point. They're getting all of the benefits of the plan, and all they have to do is follow Cinder's orders, And, yeah. So that's just my personal thoughts and my personal take on that. And then, obviously, she roasts... she tells Cinder, she's like, your last name... She was like, your last name is Fall, and you're the Fall Maiden. She was like, you basically could have come up with that name yourself, which is basically true, like, right? I feel like that is foreshadowing, maybe on Monty's part, when it comes to how he like, basically foreshadowed that moment in the show. We're like, hey, we're going to come up with these maidens down the line, but for right now, this girl's going to be Cinder Fall. She's going to kill some girl named Pyrrha, whose name basically means Pyrrhic victory, and she is then going to become the Fall Maiden, and it works because her last name is Fall. I wouldn't be surprised if that's how it worked, if that's how the scenario was built around the story, for how Cinder was going to kill Pyrrha and become the Fall Maiden based on the based on the foreshadowing of their names alone. So, where's my face? It is behind these images. I had a bunch of these images up just so I can illustrate my point and get all of my points across for the images that I wanted to show. But I'm back. We're going to be doing that a little later. I'm going to be gone for a while because there's a lot of points and mentions that I want to give during the menagerie scene. So, let's talk about the Bella Brawl. Well, we still have a lot more to talk about for this discussion. All things in good time. So, I don't want to rush anything or overlook anything necessarily. Arnold, I could still see an Emerald redemption moment, but we've seen very little of them these past 2 volumes, so we'd need to see a lot more. Well, yeah, I understand that. I'm not saying it's impossible, but as of right now, for people to imply that Emerald has any type of redemption is a little hard to believe based on what you just said. We haven't really seen much of what they think about the whole thing or how they're feeling about the whole thing or, what they, we can see Emerald having a bit of Stockholm syndrome, you know what I mean? Like, being like, oh, well, Cinder saved me, so I owe her my life. We didn't even get the answer for why Mercury's along the ride. Maybe he just wants to see the world burn. Who knows? Yo, what up, Jerry? I see you in the chat, my boy. How's it going, dude? Hazel has a better chance. Hazel doesn't need redemption. Hazel isn't really doing anything like egregious or heinous necessarily. He's just on the enemy's side. He values people. He values life. He's cut from a different cloth than everybody else in this group. So I really don't put him on the same.
Sorry to skip ahead a little bit, but when they said that they're attacking Haven in 2 days, I screamed at my screen. Give us a timeline, damn it. Maybe someday.
You're gonna enjoy that part of the reaction for me then. My reaction that comes out this weekend, you're gonna enjoy that part in particular. I'm so glad that you said that. I'm so glad you mentioned that. That's all I'm gonna leave it off with. You're gonna like the reaction. But yeah, so anyways, moving on from there, another parallel that I noticed here was how Cinder was flexing her Fall Maiden powers to Raven this time, similar to how she did that in coercing Adam to work alongside her after she got the Fall Maiden powers in Volume 3. Of course, gotta love the Maya engine. They actually made the effects a lot more intimidating overall. Like she's got instead of her like the best thing that they could have done in Poser, like they showed off the fire on the floor before they cut to the top image, and like they obviously had like her dress, like the sleeve part of her dress light up, but to have the fire eye and to have the ball of flames, like that just makes it look a lot better. And then like the snickering, like actually like the smirk versus just like a little random kind of like half smile on the top image there. I just really like it, and it kind of looks like she has her old hairstyle back now that I noticed that, like from when she was younger, because she had short hair before Volume 1. She had way shorter hair. I think at some point the show needs to get I think at some point the show needs to get everyone possible to try to take back Beacon from the Grimm to protect the relic if it's still there. Well, as of right now, they don't know where the relic is for Beacon. Like Cinder said, reinforce our numbers at Beacon, the relic is there. So they're having trouble finding it. If they look through the vault and it's not there, again, I still think it's Ozpin's cane, or maybe it's inside of Ozpin's cane, because that's the only other thing, right? Like Ozpin was dead, but his weapon wasn't there. Crow had taken his weapon. So if his weapon was the relic and it's not there and they can't find it, that's the only parallel that I can make that would make sense necessarily. And, it's in Ozpin's possession. Notice also how Ozpin didn't even bother to worry about the relic and Beacon, right? When he told them, he was like, when he revealed himself to them, he was like, yeah, I'm Ozpin, I'm cursed, I'm a part of this kid's soul now. He said the first thing we need to do is ensure the security of the Relic of Knowledge. He didn't say anything about the Relic of Beacon. He didn't even bother to question, oh shit, Beacon fell, they must have the relic by now. She's already a threat. the fact that no one is bringing any kind of cause for alarm or concern, despite Beacon being gone, despite them having the maiden correlating to, the relic at Beacon, tells me that Ozpin probably knows that it's not there. He probably has it in his possession. It's probably his cane. So, no, they don't know what the relic looks like, but, I mean, the relics can only be accessed by a maiden, and since we know that Ozpin at one point was the person who gave them their powers, he should be able to access the relics too, which again, like I said, makes sense. So, I do feel like the cane is the relic for Vale, for Beacon, and we obviously don't. I mean, some people see it that way. Some people just see it as that's his weapon. But the fact that, if Ozpin was really dead, why would Crow go out of his way to hold on to it if he thought Ozpin was gone, right? So, that's that. Again, like I said, that's just my headcanon, and that's kind of what I'm going for, or I'm going with until we get more information down the line. What did I miss? We're still talking about the initial startup. I've been streaming for about an hour, so you've missed about an hour of discussion. But we're still at the very early process, the early parts of the discussion overall. So here we get a little bit of demonstration of the maiden's powers, and this reminded me of Amber so much, because the second Amber activated her maiden powers, fucking thunderstorms and crazy winds blowing and everything like that, and it just reminded me of Volume 3, Chapter 7 all over again. Granted, to a lesser extent, because she only demonstrated. She's like, okay, I'm the maiden. I'm not gonna give you a whole show. I'm just gonna give you enough for you to be convinced. And I really, really like that. And I'm beginning to enjoy Vernal's character a lot more. Like, I love the voice acting for her. I love her design. And if she is the Spring Maiden, right? And I'm saying if she is the Spring Maiden because there's enough discussion and there's enough speculations going around in the fandom right now that are kind of swaying me to kind of think a little bit more open-mindedly, that maybe Vernal is not the Spring Maiden, It could very well be Raven. Raven's always around Vernal. Vernal has a really high level of respect for Raven. I'm sorry, Vernal has a high level of respect for Raven, despite the fact that she probably outempowers her, right? And that could just be a level of respect within the tribe. That could be a level of just overall respect for the fact that they took her in and, treat her like family, and she is family. But it would be a very interesting, plot twist if it wasn't Vernal that was the Spring Maiden. Maybe it's Raven and she's doing a good job of hiding it, Though the only thing that would counteract that, is the fact that the lightning bolt that was struck to stop everyone from getting out of control a couple chapters back when Yang and Weiss came together, the lightning bolt struck, and when it pans back over, you see Vernal put her hand down, as if she was the one who cast it. But then again, like I said, it could be a ploy, and I'm speaking based on a theory that somebody else posted that I read about. So this isn't any type of speculation from me personally. But it was enough to get me thinking, I wonder, maybe I should still keep an open mind. Even though her name literally means spring, maybe even if, all of that stuff comes to. The only thing that would be definitive is if Leo or if Crow managed to see Vernal and remember her from 10 plus years ago when she was younger. Even if she's aged and changed a bit, you never really change the way you look, even if you grow up. You always kind of still look the same. So, that could be very well the case as well. Arnold, do you think we'll see the Relic of Knowledge's physical form by the end of the volume to theorize what form the other relics can take? Yes and no. I want to say yes because obviously I want to see the relic. But personally, I feel like it would... I feel like the volume is going to end right as the fall of Haven is commencing, right? But then at the same time, to leave off on something that climactic, I don't know. They have, and the reason why I say that too is because Volume 1, from Chapter 1 to Chapter 9, a month has passed. So from chapter 1 to chapter 9, a month of time has passed, so there's no barometer for you to even figure out how much time will in fact pass, because let's see, we have chapter 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. We have 5 chapters left of RWBY. 6 weeks technically, because we're getting a break next weekend. So next weekend there's no chapter. So we have 6 weeks left of RWBY, the production of RWBY, but we have 5 weeks left of chapters. And I can't picture the fall of Haven happening within 5 episodes. It would feel too rushed, too forced at this point, right? And it would feel like it feels like we haven't even really been in Mistral that long either. So, which is very unfortunate, because I thought we'd be able to see more of the culture and the different types of lifestyles and see a bunch of different people who live in Mistral. Team Arbrin's from Mistral, Team Sun's from Mistral, and we haven't really gotten to see any aspects of the lifestyle like we did in Vale and Beacon. Like, Vale and Beacon have been heavily established because we've stuck around Beacon and Vale for 3 years, 3 volumes, and we have a very solid understanding of how Vale society works in relation to everywhere else. And now I feel like things are picking up. Like, I can see where a lot of people mention like pacing, and it's because we're getting these big chunks of time that are just lost to us, and there's not enough time to fill out and flesh out these environments in these moments. So, yeah, Mistral, we can talk a big game about Mistral, but we don't have we don't even have anything close to a first-hand experience of what it's like to live in Mistral, because too much time is passing for us to really have that moment to just take everything in. We only really know Mistral, like Lake Matsu. That place looks fucking gorgeous. Takes a lot of advantages of natural environments, like natural dust, like the gravity dust in the lake. Like, where are the houses? You know what I mean? Like, what we get from Mistral so far is nothing like it's depicted in the world of Remnant, right? Like, we saw those airship, we kind of saw the airships a little bit. We didn't see any of, like, the houses in the canyons and, like, the rushing waterfalls and stuff like that. Like, we saw that in the first chapter, and that was it, but that wasn't enough to, like, immerse me in the kingdom itself. So I do feel like that aspect is very, very much a letdown, because, like, I'm very invested in the characters and in the world building and everything else that comes from that. But things, like I said, things are happening way too fast for Volume 5.
Calm down.
I'd be really surprised if everything happens this volume.
I think it's time for Vernal to spring into action. God, no, that was terrible. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, you should be. Oh, God. How long have you been waiting to use that one? That one was really bad. What is a kingdom without its people? Like, we haven't even seen people, like other people, in Mistral. And I'm not counting the 2D animated scene that was shown off in the first chapter. Like, we have not seen another living soul walking around for Team Ranger at all since the show has started. No, like, they don't go anywhere. It seems like they just stay in this house on the cliff sides or the countryside, wherever the hell they are. Not even on the cliffside, like, they're living off on, like, one of the cliff houses in Mistral, and we haven't seen any but, like, no other walks of life. So, besides Leo, right? And I guess the excuse, like, well, school's not in session, but that's the school. What about the actual city of Mistral? So, Crow in Chapter 6, Crow Search. Oh, yeah, Crow Search. I guess I'll give that, but, like, that's not necessarily what I meant, right? Like, Vale had people, like, sitting at diners, having drinks, walking up and down the streets, being in these large areas, just going about their regular mundane lives, like in Volume 2, for example, and then Volume 3, like with the Vital Festival. So many random people walking around. It feels like Mistral's is super empty. And the only aspect that we saw from Mistral when Crow was searching for those huntsmen was, like, the slums, right? And it was very moment to moment. There was nothing. It didn't seem very I don't know. I'm doing a bit of comparison at this point for what they did years ago back in Maya, and I feel like it's not really living up to where it should be for Mistral. especially since it's a brand new place. Like, it's a brand new place. I want to be able to look around and explore and see how it varies from everywhere else in the world. Like, is this gonna be how it is when we go to Vacuo, or when we go to Atlas, or if we ever go to the Dragon Continent, where Salem is most likely at? You know, like the world has so much potential to be fleshed out and expressed, but it all comes down to, like, how much they're going to, you know, cut corners, or how much they're going to, what they're going to show versus what they're going to tell, right? And I think that's Rooster Teeth's biggest issue, is the telling versus the showing. The ratio is very off in that department. So, yeah, like, the regular, just like the civilians, dude, like, right? Like, there was that one, like, we know they exist. We know Haven citizens exist, right? Because in Volume 3, after Mercury got his legs broken, whatever, they had the, like, the news reporting, and that one dude was like, I don't know what, you know, Beacon's headmaster is teaching his students, but that was disgraceful, completely uncalled for. That guy was a Haven, it literally says at the bottom, a Haven tourist. So we know they exist. We know that there are people that live there and that are out there, and he was also in 2D, which is like, fuck, you know what I mean? Like, I want to actually see these people, you know? So it's a little frustrating from time to time, I will admit. Hey, Bud, welcome, dude. Thanks for joining. Glad you can be here. Yeah. But like I always mention, you gotta have patience. It all comes down to that question. Like, someone asked, they were like, do you think we'll see the relic this volume? To see the relic this volume would imply that the fall of Beacon... I'm sorry, I keep saying the fall of Beacon. The fall of Haven would happen this volume as well. And for all of that to go down in the same volume feels like a bit much, especially since it took 3 volumes for the fall of Beacon, right? Like, literally, and the allusion to that is because a month has passed, but it literally feels like days have passed based on how we watch this show. And so, like, it's hard for me to create that suspension of disbelief to be like, okay, Arnold, the fall of Beacon might seem fast from a viewer's perspective, but in actuality, a month of time has passed. And it's not like all of this stuff is happening, you know, in the course of days. It's happening over the stretch of months. We just, again, they don't have a formulated timeline. So it's a very frustrating process to be like, to be told one thing, but to experience it in a different light and be like, okay, I'll take it for what it's worth. You know, it's just a very jarring experience. PTSD Arnold keeps remembering the fall of Beacon, doesn't? Yeah, I guess the fall of Beacon just rolls off the tongue a lot more than the fall of Haven. So, like, because the fall of Beacon, that's literally the name of the event. Like, it's an actual event that's named in the, you know, in the show, the fall of Beacon. The fall of Haven hasn't happened yet, so I mean, it's super weird to kind of just start calling it that. Even though I feel like all of the schools will fall. Salem will win, and it's eventually going to be a point of we have to stop that overwhelming force now because, you know, they got what they wanted. So yeah, overall, Vernal, pretty badass. Do I think the fall of Haven's going to happen this volume? I wouldn't be surprised, but at the same time, it's just all in how they do it. And then obviously we see here Cinder, power hungry as fuck, like unfazed by anything. She looks so power hungry here too. Like, her eyes get like really small too, and I'm just like, Jesus Christ, Cinder, like, you're power hungry as hell. I don't know if she herself is gonna get powers like that, because Cinder, Salem mentions too, she was like, you know, you will have the power I promised you when the time is right. So I'm wondering, what power is that? You know, are you gonna give Cinder the maiden powers, and then you're gonna get the power of the relics? You know what I mean? Like, how does that work? Another thing that I'm wondering too is, did Ozpin create the relics? Because Ozpin created the maidens, but it wouldn't make sense if the relics existed before the maidens existed, because it down the road, these maidens' powers were tethered to these relics. So unless Ozpin also created these relics and then gave them tangible links to the corresponding maidens, it wouldn't make sense that these relics just existed before Ozpin created the maidens, and that it just so happens that these maidens' powers that derive from Ozpin are linked to the relics. So that's another thing too. We got to find out what it's like, the chicken or the egg, which one came first. So the gods of light and darkness made them. The maidens were tied to the vault. Oh, okay, they're tied to the vault. Okay, never mind then. All right, I misinterpreted that. Yeah, the maidens are tied to the vaults that house the relics. Okay. Which makes sense. Never mind. I take all that back, because then that makes sense, because Ozpin created the schools, which then would easily be explained that, you know, he created these vaults, you know, put a bit of his, you know, wizard magic in there as well. So he's like, okay, those maidens I created years ago, only they can get to these relics. So not the relics themselves, but the vaults that they're housed in. All right, that was a little bit of miscalculation from my brain for some reason. I never said that. I'll delete this stream. You have no evidence. Yeah, so yeah, the gods made the relics. So yeah, that was my fault. So moving on from there. Okay, so moving on from there, you guys are going to lose me for a little bit again. I apologize, but this is to illustrate my point. So we get into the negotiation factor of this whole situation, and this is where things kind of expand, and where I kind of really admire Raven's foresight and how, like, perceptive Raven is. Like, she mentioned to at the beginning, when she's like, you know, roasting all of them, Cinder's like, oh, aren't you perceptive? And she's like, that's what's kept me alive. And again here, her perception is being, you can see her perception at work, right? So the initial agreement, or the initial you know, negotiation is that, hey, in 2 days we're attacking Haven. You have to decide now if you're going to help us, because if not, then we're going to fight you. We're going to take this maiden. We need the relic. That's all we care about. That's all Salem cares about. And the maidens are a means to an end to get this even greater level of power. And that was the initial negotiation. And I was like, damn, they don't really have a lot of leverage here. It's 2-on-4. They have a chance of escaping. And I love how Cinder was like, you know, you have a slim chance of escaping. You know, you have a slim chance of leaving this place alive if you choose to fight us. And I was literally thinking to myself, I'm like, she could literally run into her tent with Vernal, create a portal, and leave before you guys even have a time to chase her, right? So I just found that, like that in of itself, she was like, actually, it's a lot easier for her to get away than you think. But the whole reason why she stayed is because obviously her tribe would be collateral damage. And, you know, anything for the tribe, which I hate how the tribe literally can't live without her, or, like, survive without her. Like, her tribe in of itself are cannon fodder. And, in a way, they're also a liability. So they end up coming to the negotiation, and this is where Raven's perception kind of kicks in. She says, I want my brother dead. And the first thing that comes on my mouth is like, what? Why? Why do you want to kill Crow? What the hell? What do you do to you? And she starts kind of like weaving this web of you know, ulterior motives for her to be able to get the relic once shit hits the fan, right? And I really like that. And this is where I realized that I didn't notice that. I didn't even mention it in my reaction until I rewatched the chapter. But they don't know that Crow's semblance is bad luck. So what Raven literally did here is she's basically ambushing the ambushers. She says, I want my brother dead. If Leo really is, you know, your informant, have him invite this bad luck charm to this grand meeting with all of us, and we can set an ambush, and nothing bad will go wrong. Nothing bad will go wrong. Nothing at all. It's not like Crow is the source of bad luck. So, and I think Raven knows that. She would have to. They're twins, right? And that's how he got his name. So it would make sense for her to be like, okay, I want my brother dead. You guys lure him into this ambush. And Crow's already mentioned, too. He was like, my semblance comes in handy when I'm in a fight or when I'm dealing with enemies, but it makes it hard on friends and family. So in this sense, it just makes it all the more better for Crow to be able to handle the situation, especially if he's with his friend. The only thing I can think of is that if his semblance is going to kick in, it's going to affect everybody around him, good and bad. RWBY, Jean, Oscar, Raven, and the bad guys. So that's like the only aspect of this whole plan that I'm wondering. I hope it doesn't go sour. Let's see. Also helps confirm Leo is indeed a mole, so she can tell Crow that to help him and arrange the conflict for her own relic grabbing efforts. Yeah, so not only that, but this is all, like, they already have their suspicions. So I was a little worried initially. I was like, oh no, like, she's gonna ambush them. Like, what the fuck? That's gonna set things all out of whack. And then I was like, no, wait. They already have suspicions on Leo. Like, Ozpin and Crow already have suspicions on Leo based on how he was acting in the first volume. So, and then Raven teleports to them at the end of the chapter. So if she tells them that, they can basically plan a counter effort to this whole, like, she's basically double crossing them at this point. And it's all a ploy. It's all for the grand agenda of her getting this relic, realizing how powerful it is, and that they really need that power if they're going to have a chance of surviving this war. It sucks that, all of this effort came to her doorstep and she didn't want it. And she was like, I'm not helping Ozpin. I'm not helping Salem. I'm not doing anything. And, it's like, well, too bad, you have a maiden. So if you're not going to do anything, we'll take that maiden off your hands. Otherwise, you're going to have some issues. And 2-on-4 with a shit ton of cannon fodder. I don't know if Watts can do anything, right? I'm pretty sure he's the tech support guy, He's who you call when you have a problem with your scroll. But yeah. Oh yeah, also, I completely brushed over this. They all had a big hand in the fall of Beacon. I completely brushed over this, and I mentioned it earlier when I was rambling. Right, so Watts created the Black Queen virus. We didn't even know Watts was affiliated with the fall of Beacon until, more recently. But he created the Black Queen virus that Cinder used in Volume 2 to hack the CCT.
I'm seeing the animosity between QROW and Raven as a direct parallel to Cain and Abel. The story of a set of twins wherein the elder gets jealous and murders the younger in cold blood.
Huh, so I'm assuming Crow's older then? I could see that. Oh, no, you're saying Raven is older. Never mind, I take that back. I screwed that up. Cain and Abel, that's interesting. That's very interesting. I mean, we already know that they're also paralleled with the Hugin and Munin, the birds of Odin from the Norse mythology, from the Norse mythology poems. So that's really interesting. Why does it pause at the last word? I don't know. It's the text-to-speech, so, I mean, take it for what it's worth. maybe it was trying to, like, emphasize blood. She's like, cold blood. So, who knows? But yeah, so Watts created the Black Queen virus, which allowed Cinder to hack the CCT in Volume 2, turn over all of the Atlesian paladins, all of the Atlesian forces to their control. So Beacon didn't really have a way of protecting itself. She also rigged the Vital Festival tournament. You have Cinder, who was basically the ringleader of the Fall of Beacon, kind of setting up all of the points, basically being the leader. She recruited everybody. She recruited Torchwick and, the White Fang, and she got Emerald and Mercury involved. And, Mercury set up a lot of the initial turbulence when it comes to, a lot of people looking at Ozpin in a weird fashion. And then Emerald is just broken as fuck. She's the reason, Emerald is the legitimate reason why Cinder got the Fall Maiden powers. She's the legitimate reason why Penny killed Pyrrha, and, the domino effect of the Fall of Beacon after that. You know what I mean? And Neo's Neo, and that's a double pun. That's a double reference right there. Neo is Neo, but I'm also talking about the ice cream. So yeah, all of them had a really big hand. I mean, Neo is just another associate. She didn't really do anything grandiose at the end of the day. She was another lackey. She was Torchwick's. She was the lackey of, alongside Torchwick, I'm sorry, Pyrrha killed Penny. My bad. I had that ass backwards. Now I want some ice cream. Yeah, my bad. I meant to say that the other way around. Pyrrha killed Penny. Yeah, when I ramble, I get lost in my thoughts. I get lost in, like, just rambling, and I say words wrong. Back ass words, you mean? Alright, guys. Enough roasting me. We get it. So, I really do appreciate how perceptive Raven truly is. Like, not only in identifying, like, all of them, you know, they're like, okay, this is Salem's crew, this is who she's working with, but also the fact that none of them know what Crow's semblance is. They don't realize how passive it is and how that kind of works in in Raven's case, you know, for her kind of being like, I want my brother dead, because he's gonna come after me, and, like, okay, who cares if he comes after you, he comes after you. Well, I mean, it's still a valid reason, because I feel like Crow would go after her. She's like, hey, what the fuck are you doing, you know? But I think you know, I think she just said that to kind of win them over, because now she teleported to Crow, and I'm assuming she's going to explain the scenario, explain the situation, give them a heads up. Like you said, Dan, confirm the identity of Leo Lionheart as the informant, so they have a better understanding of who to keep in that circle of trust, and they could very well plan a counter tactic to the initial ambush. Let's see. Yeah, she took advantage of Cinder's arrogance, Melissa. You're absolutely right. And that just further reinforces her arrogance. All she had to say was Crow, and then you know, and she was like, well, just take him out. It's just him. And then she was like, but it's not just him. Like, Emerald was like, he's got RWBY. That's all. Like, she's like, you had me at RWBY. Like, you had me all in at RWBY, because she lets her pride get the best of her, right? Right, and I mentioned this in my reaction too, and I try to understand where I'm coming from with this, right? I in no way, shape, or form have any type of remorse for Cinder, right? I feel like I will once she gets betrayed, because it's like, this all could have been avoided. If you could actually just see the forest for the trees, you would understand that the scenario you're in is a temporary solution to a permanent problem, you know? I felt a bit of pity to Cinder in Volume 4, right? This, based on how she acted in Volumes 3 and Volumes 2, seeing the state that she was in Volume 4, seeing a level of vulnerability, seeing a level of weakness, what's the word I'm looking for? She just seemed very vulnerable, and, you know, obviously somewhat defeated. You know, she was in a bad state. She was under Salem's treatment. Her associates were like roasting her, making fun of her, to the where she couldn't even talk to defend herself or say what she was thinking or what was on her mind. She was being restricted heavily during training. I was like, damn, Cinder, this fucking I feel bad for you. Like, that way of feeling bad for somebody, not like, oh man, I genuinely feel bad for you, like you fucking killed students and, you know, innocent people. I have no remorse for you. I felt that way in Volume 4, and then we went back to old Cinder this chapter. It literally was like a blast. I was like, oh fuck, now I remember how shitty of a person you are, and how cocky and how arrogant and how snobby you were. And Raven saw that. I mean, she identified it immediately. She's like, you have egomania on your case. So I'll take advantage of that, because I'm way more experienced than you. I know how the world works. I know how Salem works. You clearly don't know. You'll find out the hard way, of course. And she kind of played her like a fiddle. Like my friend Michael said, like Raven played Cinder like a fiddle. Fucking landed right in her lap. She's like, okay, I got you for my own plan with my brother and his bad luck. Turns out you're obsessed with RWBY, so that kind of works into it too. Your judgment's gonna be clouded. You're gonna have this narrow version of tunnel vision where that's your end goal. And I'm gonna say it again, because I said it. When did I say this? I think I said it last chapter or so. But a lot of these characters, actually, I mentioned it this past weekend in my Discord stream, but a lot of these characters, Salem's telling them to do one thing, and they're adding their own personal agenda to that thing. And I feel like that's going to infuriate Salem down the road, right? Like, she even says, never underestimate the usefulness of others. She told Adam and she told Hazel, she was like, go to Sienna Khan, inform her of our plans, make sure she sees eye to eye with us because, you know, we could use her forces and we can use her influence. What does Adam do? He kills her. He was like, this was my battle. This was my problem, not yours. And he doesn't realize, well, that's not what Salem told you to do. So there's definitely going to be, most likely are going to be repercussions, despite the fact that she's essentially getting what she wants at the end of the day. Same thing here, right? They're like, we need the relic. They're going through all of these other hoops to get it, but I still feel like it's going to, like, they could have easily taken Vernal and have gotten their objective a lot sooner, a lot quicker. And I feel like the fact that they're kind of playing, they're trying to have their cake and eat it too, right? They're trying to get what Salem wants, but also get what they want as a proxy. And I feel like Salem's gonna get, I feel like at some point it's gonna backfire, right? And Watts even mentions it too. I think this is the next screenshot here. Yeah, Watts even mentions it right here too. He's like, I know what you're doing. And Watts is the only one that's like, no, we can't do it your way. We have to do it our way because that's what Salem wants. That's literally the point A to point B results. Like, that's all we need. All of this other shit in between isn't gonna matter. And then Ruby's name got brought up. And this is where Cinder gets a little power hungry. She realizes, like, oh, I'm the maiden. You know, I'm the head honcho. I'm the one in charge. You know, I'm Salem's, you know, special little person. And everyone else is gonna listen to me. And I feel like that's where these two butt heads, because Cinder, you know, Watts is just, I don't know, Watts, I feel he's more astute, and he's just more level-headed, right? He's level-headed, he's like, he understands the situation, and Cinder is just like, she's wayward, you know, she lacks the experience, and, you know, she's kind of just going with the flow of things, I feel. And, you know, Watts' logic, and she's kind of like, I feel like doing this, so I'm gonna do it, you know, and I really do feel like that's gonna come back to bite them. And I like that little fire effect that she put on him, like, she was like, go back home and tinker with your toys and tell Salem that she'll get what she wants and more. It's like, I'm pretty sure you don't know what Salem wants, right? Like, Salem wants you to do what Salem wants you to do. She doesn't want, I don't know. I really do feel like it's gonna come back to bite them. Right, Hazel had no control of the situation that happened with Sienna Khan, so that was an unfortunate circumstance that Adam, I feel like, is gonna have to pay for. And then this point, it's gonna be way worse, dude. It's gonna be so much worse if they go through with this plan and it falls through. And they have to go back to, they're gonna have to be like Tyrion, go back to Salem and be like, I fucked up. I didn't do what you told me to do. Granted, Tyrion was kind of outmatched, and kind of caught off guard too. Well, not outmatched. He was just caught off guard. And he failed on two accounts, right? He didn't bring back Ruby, and he told Salem that he killed Tyrion. He told Salem that he killed Crow, and Crow's still alive. So I don't even know what type of punishment or what type of talk she gave him to get his shit back in gear. But it's gonna be way worse for these guys because they're the ones that are actually going through with, like, the heavy stuff. It seems like Tyrion is on timeout, or maybe he's like in his freaking doghouse or whatever, because everybody else is out and about. I'm assuming he got his new tail too, because he's probably healing up, actually, because he got his new tail from Watts before Watts left. So I mean, at this point, we don't, you know, we can't really tell until it happens. Let's see, can Neo please have a sister named Sherbert? I mean, I don't know, man. At that point, oh god, what would that shipping name be? Because they're both ice cream. Would it be like Ice Cream Mountain or something like that? I remember Ice Cream Mountain. I think Ice Cream Mountain was from the Rugrats, if I remember correctly. So essentially, they're in agreement. Raven knows what the hell she's doing. Cinder Cinder thinks she knows what the hell she's doing, and she thinks she has, Raven on the ropes. But I feel like this is really going to come back to bite them, especially when you get everybody else on in the situation aligned with your plans, right? Like, Ozpin's going to know the situation, right? Crow's going to know the situation. Team Ranger's going to know the situation. On top of that, they don't know that Weiss and Yang are also back together with RWBY and, Team Ranger. So that's just more people that they have to deal with. So I feel like at the end of the day, I feel hopeful. I truly feel hopeful for the scenario as a whole, but Rooster Teeth is going to leave us off with something massive. They mentioned too they mentioned at what's it called? They mentioned at Madison Square Garden when they did their RWBY panel in New York City. They mentioned that they're looking forward to Chapter 13 and the finale, Chapter 14. And knowing Volume 3, right, which was the lead up to the fall of Beacon, and that's kind of our barometer because that is like a massive scale attack that we've already experienced once. If the fall of Beacon is any type of indication of what we can expect, chapters 13 and 14 are going to be monumental. I can't say in what regard because we lost a lot, right? A lot of characters died off before, during, and after those moments. And, it was just a very methodical takedown. And this time around, it feels a little all over the place, especially since the White Fang are at the forefront of this attack. And, you don't have the Atlesian forces helping you. You don't have Grimm coming in to help you. But granted, I assume Grimm are going to be a factor. You have a Fall Maiden. You have a bunch of Cinder's accomplices. You have the entire branches of the White Fang that support Adam. And that's really all you have. So you have a little bit more force in terms of the White Fang, but not much in terms of Grimm, in terms of the Atlesian forces to help you. And there is no backup. There's no backup for them either. There's no backup like there was. Like, all Atlas personnel and everything is gone. It's going to be another isolated incident that's not going to reach the masses because, number one, the CCT network is still down. Number two, what happens, it's like what happens in Haven is going to stay in Haven. It's only going to get out through word of mouth. Like, Menagerie only now, not only now, but like it took, like, Menagerie even now, like the flow of information that comes to Menagerie is based on the White Fang. The White Fang are basically the ones that give you your fake news for the day, right? So it's going to be a while before they realize that Haven falls, if it falls the same way I'm thinking. I just hope Ozpin doesn't die every volume. Like, he dies during every fall of Beacon. That'd be really depressing, especially since Oscar's tethered to that same fate, I'm assuming. Oh my god, imagine there's another Grimm. Another, like, massive Grimm in the mountains. Because the fucking... like, Mistral as a whole is, it's embedded into a mountain. And in Mountain Glen, that's where the Grim Dragon came out. So if enough horror and pandemonium and chaos ensues, I wonder if there are these ancient Grimm that are sealed away in these mountains or sealed underground and stuff like that. If they, like, just come out when that threshold of panic reaches its fever pitch. No, not another Kevin. I hate that. I why the hell is his name Kevin? But no, like, I'm wondering if, like, that would be an interesting aspect too, to just see, like, a very high tier ancient Grimm, because that's how they're controlling Beacon right now, right? Like, the Grim Dragon is luring more Grimm to the school to basically make it so that no one can really approach it. And you would have to expect that was in Cinder's plans, right? Because they could very well easily just rebuild and reestablish unless they had something there to keep everyone at bay. So I'm wondering if that's going to be a factor as well. Also, I think Miles said that we were going to see his favorite Grimm this volume, if I'm not mistaken, unless during production they had to cut it. But we have not yet seen Miles' favorite Grimm. And I want to say he did tease that we would see it this volume. I want to say that. I don't quote me on that, but I feel like I did hear him say that during, like, everything that was happening leading up to Volume 5. But yeah, they have a deal, and Deal or no deal, it's a matter of time. So anyways, you guys are gonna lose me for a while again, but this is where we get into like the action, the really exciting aspect of the chapter for me personally, the follow-up of what I feel a lot of us were looking forward to the week before, which Gira going absolutely beast mode and just fucking wrecking everything that moves in his house, right? And they're all like breaking and entering, so he can just straight up kill all of them, and they're trying to take his life, so... Literally, Dan said Primal Gira, like, he activated Primal Rage, which is Winston's ultimate ability in Overwatch, and he's just going absolutely apeshit, and I love it. I love it to death. And, Papa Belladonna, Logan ripoff, come on. So, I want to ask you guys this. I want to ask because, I saw a lot of people talking about this too, right? So, it's obvious that Gira is based on Bagheera, the Black Panther from the Jungle Book. In my reaction, for some reason, I said a werewolf because his transformation, Gira's transformation, reminded me of the game for any of you guys who have seen it or who have played it, The Wolf Among Us. So, the way that he like transformed, kind of made me remember The Wolf Among Us, and the guy's basically kind of like a werewolf in that game. So I was like, that's why I said, oh my god, is he a werewolf? And I completely like detached the fact that he's based on the Black Panther. So yeah, he's based off Bagheera the Black Panther, but his transformation reminded me of a werewolf because he's got like the hair on his arms and on his chest, and the way that he transforms, like his teeth grow out and his roar and everything, it just felt very werewolf-esque. It also reminded me of Remus, Professor Lupin from Harry Potter. His werewolf transformation, granted, it wasn't it was like a straight-up werewolf, but that transformation kind of reminded me of that as well. Yeah, Remus fucking, he went ham, dude. So, but yeah, so hold on. I'm reading the chat really quick. Let's see. Gira is more like Sabretooth. So what I wanted to ask you guys, right? And something that I've seen very often in the last week since this chapter came out, a lot of people think that Gira was related to Tuxin. Tuxin's book trade, Home to Every Book Under the Sun, the guy from Volume 2 who was the first character to be killed. Granted, it was off-screen. Because he also had claws as his faunish trait. And a lot of people are assuming that the parallel there is like, okay, they both have the same characteristic traits. And a lot of people thought that maybe Blake was related to him in earlier volumes because he owned a bookstore and Blake loves to read books. So they thought like, oh, is that her dad, or is that someone that she knew, or is that a relative of hers, because they're both faunists and he owns a bookstore and Blake likes to read books. And now we're finding out that Gira has the same type of claw features of a faunist, just like Tuxin. So, and they kind of look alike a little bit. Like Tuxin looks like a younger version of Gira. So, or maybe it's her uncle. And they can go through with another my uncle joke. But no, I just wanted to know what you guys thought of that. If you guys thought that was plausible, if you think it's too, if it's too, what's it called? Too much of a coincidence. You know what I mean? Like two isolated characters who just happen to correlate with the same type of traits. Because, I mean, how many faunists do we see with bunny ears, but we don't go around saying, like, oh, Velvet must be related to this White Fang chick because she's a rabbit. You know what I mean? Like, we don't bat an eye at that, but stuff that's more in our faces like this, we're willing to kind of put a crackpot theory to the test. So I do think, personally, it's all of those points that I made, like, while they are very interesting and they could hold up to an extent, I do think that it's just very much like a coincidence. It's just a coincidence they both have claws. It's a coincidence that Blake likes reading books and Tuxin happens to be the owner of a bookstore. It would be kind of cool, though, if they literally just came out and they were like, yeah, they're distant relatives, and Blake likes to visit there every so often for books. So, I just wanted to mention that part initially. But yeah, he literally like levels everybody in his house. And I absolutely love it. This part right here got me really scared because I literally thought that Gira impaled Corsac through the head with that spear. And the way that they cut it right here, they didn't show it, so I thought that's what confirmed it. I was like, he literally just killed him. Like, literally just killed this dude. You know? So, I was curious about that. Like, this whole interaction was just very scary, too. After this moment in particular, because then Gira ends up losing his aura, right? So he loses, like, there's this initial confrontation. You know, Gira has the high ground, Anakin, and he ends up losing his aura. And as once a character loses their aura, that's where you really need to start being worrisome for a character, right? Pyrrha, like a lot of characters have lost their aura in this show, and like some characters have died without aura activation or losing aura to that extent. And aura is still something that I personally feel like is being flushed out. Believe it or not, you know what I mean? Like they reestablished they reestablished like a retcon to an extent regarding aura and semblances a few chapters back. I believe it was chapter 5 or 4. You know, when RWBY was training with Oscar. And you know, Gira's aura is wasted here, so now damage can be lethal. And I do feel like, stop quoting Star Wars until we know you've seen all 8 movies. Well, I can still quote them. I know the quotes. The quotes are like memes in of themselves, right? I feel like I should be able to quote them. Like, I am your father. Like, there are just some things that you can't avoid within Star Wars, right? Like you will try, and I am your father, and like there's just those common ones that are just like, even if you don't watch Star Wars, you've heard of them. And so I use them. So yeah, I feel like at this point, like, I thought I was afraid of Gira, you know, potentially dying at first. And thank God for Sun, right? Like, thank fucking God for this dude. I feel like a lot of people are sleeping on him because, you know, he's the goofball, and, you know, he tries and fails, and, you know, he's just around because he likes Blake so much, and all this other stuff. But I really do feel like Sun, like the definition that Blake gave him is very true to his nature. He is a very earnest person. He tries to help out when he can. He cares for Blake. He cares for her well-being. He obviously wants to make a good impression on the dad as well, which is, you know, you can't blame him for that because he's been trying since last year to, you know, leave off on good impressions. And I feel like at this point is where we're going to get it. And Sun comes clutch. He actually saves the day 2 chapters in a row, right? So, like, last chapter, he helped out Blake, prevented, you know, the Faunus from getting her to the docks. And then this chapter, he helps out Gira, which I was so happy about. And I'm wondering if next chapter he's going to help out Kali, because then at that point, the whole family owes him, right? Like, the whole family's going to end up owing him. So, let's see. Vincent Abramo. Your comment is very interesting based on something that I'm going to mention. I don't know if you saw the tweet already based on your mention of that, but I have something to mention to those of you who have not seen my Twitter, who haven't, like, seen me, like, who don't have Twitter or don't use Twitter or didn't see the post that I made the other day. But yeah, so, like, I literally feel like this is the perfect opportunity for Sun and Gira to like legitimately bond over like beating the shit out of these enemies and like defeating them. Like, it's hard to say, right? It's kind of like I forgot what show it is. I forgot what I want to say Goku and Vegeta, but I don't think that's it. There was an anime that I watched, and there were these 2 characters. I think it's actually an anime trope, but there were these 2 characters who, like, the only Naruto and Sasuke. There you go. It was Naruto and Sasuke. It was an anime trope. Naruto and Sasuke, right? The only way that these 2 characters understand each other is by beating the shit out of each other, like fighting. Like, they understand each other with their fists. And granted, Sun and Gira aren't fighting each other. They're going to bond, right? And they're going to have this experience in this moment together of like having each other's back and actually putting aside their squabbles of the dad not liking the boy, and you know, the boy trying to impress the dad and getting nowhere. And this is going to be like the foundation of their relationship. But at the same time, I'm terrified of that, because this is very easy grounds for Gira to die. And one thing that I think of in this regard, right, is Tarzan. Press 1 in the chat if you've watched Tarzan. It's pretty much, I assume, I'd be surprised if anyone here has not watched Tarzan. But in Tarzan, right, Tarzan kind of did the same thing with Kerchak, right? Like he was a human. He felt like he never fit in. All of the other apes, you know, all the other gorillas and the other animals, like, treated him like family, treated him no different. But because Tarzan was a human and he wasn't Kerchak's real son, Kerchak always gave him shit, right? Gave him shit to the, well, you're getting spoiled on Tarzan if you haven't seen it. I'm sorry. Tarzan came out when I was like 5. So I'm sorry. But yeah, so like Kerchak always gave Tarzan like a bad rap for something that really wasn't under his control. And it wasn't until Kerchak and Tarzan joined forces to an extent to stop Clayton, and it was only after Kerchak had to die. He got shot, his dying breath, he was like, "You're my son," and then he died. And I fucking hate that it has to get to that point for anything, right? I hate how death has to get to... Death has to be like what really changes a scenario or a situation or an interaction or a relationship, for better or worse, right? And I felt so bad, because I was like, you guys could have had so much time to really like establish yourselves as, you know, this father and son dynamic, but you kind of gave him you gave him the short end of the stick. You kind of cast him aside. You ostracized him until the point where you really... You didn't have that, like, that was taken away from you. It's like, well, you got to get what you got to say now, because you're going to die. So I really, like, I think about that for this moment right here. I think about, like, granted, they haven't had a lot of time together. But I do feel like it's going to be like that. I feel like Sun and Gira are going to hit it off. They're actually going to realize they have some common ground with each other for once. And then Gira, who has no aura right now, is going to take a lethal blow, a stab maybe, a shot of aura, you know, a shot of like fire dust or something, and he's going to die. And it's going to be on Sun's watch. And then Sun's going to be affected, just like how Blake is affected by Adam hurting her friends and her family, you know, and Sun's going to go through a toll, and then he's going to have some development. You know, I can very much see that happening. And then on top of that, both of them don't believe in armor, because Sun goes everywhere, open shirt, and Gira doesn't have any armor on except for that little part over his abdomen. So, yeah, literally, son of a gun. Neo1027, thank you for that. Thank you for that. That was really good. Holy shit. But yeah,
Calm down.
Oh, Coma cosplay.
I don't think that any of the Belladonnas will die, because Blake has been through so much that killing her parents will just be too much. The only reason they will kill one off will be to use as a martyr to inspire the Faunas to fight against the WF.
I can see that. I agree as well. I believe both sides, right? I feel like either one can happen. Like, Gira can die, and that will be the inspiration for the White Fang, but at the same time, I don't want him to die, because Blake is like, that's too harsh for Blake. It really is. It's too harsh of a scenario for her to have to literally be the most, like, no one gets it worse than Blake at this point. You know, like, losing her friends, like, having to fight one of her best friends, and her teammates, like, she always has to worry and think about other people for the sake of her happiness, like, for the sake of their well-being at the cost of her happiness, and at the cost, like, she just puts so much on the line, right? And, I feel like killing off either one of them even, right? I can understand, I can take gravely wounded, I can take, like, hey, we're two battered and bruised, were out of the fight for a while. I can get behind that, but death seems very harsh for Blake, given what she's already had to deal with.
Calm down.
So I do agree with you on that.
Yay, finally got Streamlabs to work.
Hey!
Love your live streams.
Blasty64, thank you so much.
Continues after December 15th. Sorry to be a Debbie Downer and got off topic. Love your vids and Twitch stream. Can't wait for Michael Nunchuck fight. Hashtag impress dad.
Yeah! Oh my god! Okay, so I'm gonna get into that in a second. Blasty64, thank you very much for the donation. Love the support. Appreciate it very much. Oh my gosh. So like obviously they're all together at this point, and hold on, let me see if I can bring up the next few images. Okay. So at this point we're gonna have Sun and Gira versus Corsac and Fennec Albane, while Blake goes off to look for her mom. Obviously she runs across what's her name, Ilya. But one thing in this whole scenario is throwing me off, and that's Yuma, right? Yuma is the assailant who killed off the messenger, Batman, basically, the Bat Faunus, and he left with Ilya. Like, she was like, Yuma, with me, you two get Blake to the docks. So Yuma is not around right now, and I feel like he's going to be the linchpin that's going to set things off course for either Sun and Gira, or for Blake, or maybe even take Kali hostage, right? Like, she's dealing with Blake, Sun and Gira are dealing with Corsac and Fennec, so right now Kali's left unguarded, unprotected, and Yuma's nowhere to be seen. So I feel like even if Sun and Gira defeat Corsac and Fennec, if Blake does defeat Ilya, they're still gonna lose out because Kali's, taken hostage, or being held for ransom, or maybe they might even hurt her. You know what I mean? So I do feel like Yuma's gonna be that deciding factor in whether or not things turn out for the better or for the worst. And it seems like none of them are aware of that. Like, obviously they don't know yet, but and they're obviously dealing with their own circumstances, their own scenarios, their own situations. But that's what I'm expecting. That's the expectation that I'm coming to, is like I'm wondering where Yuma is, what he's dealing with, and how he's gonna play a role, because he's been around for a while, and he's not around right now. He wasn't in this chapter. They don't know where he is, and we don't know where Kali is, so it's very likely that he's already gotten to her before they did. He can fly too, so he probably even got here before Ilya did, So Arnold, I would love to see that all after this fighting and whatnot, Blake run into the next room and it's just Kali sitting there drinking tea with Yuma's dead body on the floor. You know what? I didn't think I wanted that now, and now I do. Now I want that, right? Holy shit, that'd be awesome. She'd be oh, dude, I want that so bad now. Right, because I want to believe that Kali is more than just like a housewife cat mom. I want to believe that, she was in the White Fang, so it's clear. I mean, I can understand her being like, she's like, all right, I'm done with that. I'm gonna.
Down.
Oh,
we're not here for your money.
Hold on.
Yes, Yuma is not present, so Kali is dealing with him. She's very likely dead.
Oh God.
His only mission is to kill, no hostage. Ilya doesn't need to beat Blake, just stall her. Arnold, I think what you mean is spanner in the works.
Spanner in the works? Huh. But yeah, I don't want that to happen. I don't want, again, I can't picture a death, how that would really affect, Blake, right? It feels too harsh. And I hate the fact that we're always talking about death every volume. Since volume 3, right? Like, volume 4, people are like, oh, who do you think's gonna die in Team Ranger? I think it's gonna be Ren or Nora, because that's what they were kind of following up with. Like, they were giving us so many Ren and Nora moments, like backstory and, a lot of dialogue, and they were just setting up these death flags for Ren and Nora, and they even did a fake out in the finale to where a lot of people are like, okay, one of them's gonna die, someone's gonna die. I feel like a lot of people put a lot of importance on death now, that it has to be a staple because of the severity of Volume 3, and it you know, it increases the seriousness of everything. I don't think that needs to necessarily be the case. Granted, you know, this is Adam we're talking about. This is Adam's you know, ideologies. This is his, you know, this is his way of enforcing, you know, his influence, and that's his rule. He's like, hey, kill, kill, kill. I want you to kill her family. So in this instance, we can expect death to be a thing, but I do feel like death is something that we're kind of coming around to like almost too much, to where, like, I don't know. I feel like a death would be a very impactful if it wasn't if it wasn't prefaced, essentially, right? I feel like if someone just died unannounced, undeclared, like just literally someone just dies, like a prominent character, I would be mortified, because it's like Volume 3, like Penny and Pyrrha. I had my feelings about that. By the finale, I was like, it was already established, like the kiss was the tell, right? Her kissing Jean, it's like Pyrrha's gonna die. You know, the death flags for Ren and Nora, getting all this dialogue, all this backstory, all this information, you know, this fake out, you know, the fake out moment. It's like, okay, I'm led to believe that someone is gonna die. And now it's happening again here, where Adam's like, kill her family. So it's like, I'm expecting someone to die. So I don't want that to be like, I don't want them to use that as like a tool to like build suspense. I like, if you're gonna kill someone, just kill someone, and that gets the point across. It actually enhances it even more, because then it's like, you never know when it's gonna happen, you know? I don't know. I know some series get, like, Attack on Titan, for example. I couldn't tell you what that season 1 was gonna happen. I'm not gonna say it, because I feel like Attack on Titan is something that, if you haven't seen it, you need to watch it. But for everyone who knows what I'm talking about, the amount of body bags in that chapter, or in that episode, was uncalled for, and was you couldn't tell. You really didn't know, unless you read the manga, of course. So like Sienna Khan, I felt like that was going to happen. Like I mentioned to you guys too in that discussion, I was like, in the trailer, it felt very Julius Caesar assassination. I got Julius Caesar assassination vibes from that trailer. And I was like, yeah, I can, like, personally, I could see Adam doing that. But in Sienna Khan's case, that was a character that was there for 5 minutes. I really didn't have an attachment to care that she died, other than the fact that her character design is the best one in the show, and she's dead. So, yeah, I don't know. I rambled to the point where I just lost my train of thought. But yeah, long story, like, well, Game of Thrones, I've never watched Game of Thrones, but I do know, like, Game of Thrones is, like, the Akame ga Kill of TV shows. Like, the character's on a screen, they're probably gonna die. Like, my friend told me, he was like, if you ever watch Game of Thrones, play a game, pick a character that you think isn't gonna die, and they're, like, someone mentioned that a lot of the characters in Season 1 are dead. So, it's like, shit, like, he's like, it's very hard to pick a character that you like in that show, because no one is safe, nobody. So yeah, and I've heard it a million times too, like, Game of Thrones is related to, like, when it's always brought up when death is a factor, and how the severity of death matters to an extent and doesn't matter to an extent. You can look at shows that do death very, you know, all the time, right? Like Game of Thrones, or you can look at a show like Fairy Tail that, like, no one ever dies in that show. So, it's I don't know. Death is a very delicate process to kind of utilize in storytelling, especially in a world where death is permanent. None of this fucking Dragon Ball Z, Dragon Ball shit. Like, I don't think I ever cared that any character died in Dragon Ball Z, because I was like, oh, the Dragon Balls are a thing. So that level of attachment to the character diminishes, because it's like, oh, you'll always be around. I never got to worry about you. I never have to, you know, care deeply about losing you as a character, or losing you, you know, as you know, being, you know, basically as a character that I'm attached to, because Dragon Balls, you'll always be around, right? So stuff like that. Well, what I mean by fairy tale is like, so really quick, I haven't seen Fairy Tail. I'm probably never gonna watch Fairy Tail. It's too long for me to really give a shit about. But I have friends that watch Fairy Tail, and I have friends that read the manga and have watched all of it and are caught up with all of it. And I think it's done at this point. Who have mentioned that there is no sense of urgency in Fairy Tail. There's no real risks, I would say, or like I said, I'm paraphrasing to an extent. And these are like avid people who aren't just like bullshitting. Like, there are people that like love Fairy Tail that even have told me that like there is no real sense of like urgency or risk of anyone dying, because at the end of the day they always end up winning, or there's always this aspect of like, you know, against overwhelming odds, no matter what, the heroes will always win. And I feel like to an extent that is very, it's like, that's bullshit. Like, that's not real, and that I can't relate to that. So I don't. That's one of the reasons why I don't think I'll ever really see myself watching that, because that is not how the world works. Granted, it's an anime, but it's grounded to like a lot of things that people who watch the show should be able to relate to. And death is one of those things. It's like you have to accept it for the good or for the bad, you know? So, I don't know. But at the same time, I am speaking from a place of ignorance to an extent, because like I said, I've only seen the first episode of Fairy Tail.
Calm down.
That dude who made like that love potion.
Can't wait to see Kali or Gira to be on their last ropes and the pilot jumps through a dust-infused gun and saves the day.
Like the pilot too, like the pilot dude died. A lot of people got attached to that guy, and he was only in the show for like 3 chapters, I think, max. Or 2 chapters max. Yeah, he was only in like the first 2 chapters, and this character was like beloved by so many people, you know? So, like, shit like that, like, unexpected. Those people are really upset that that character is dead, you know? I don't know. Rooster Teeth might do a full 180 and kill off Ilya. Honestly, I'm expecting, I don't know. I feel like that's another thing too, because at this point, Ilya has picked her side. She's chosen her side. You know, she's gonna fall on her sword. She's gonna, you know, they're both going at each other with full resolve. So really quick, if you guys haven't seen this tweet yet, you guys are about to be very excited. For those of you who've already seen the tweet, you guys already know what to expect. But I think, I don't want to get hyped for this. Like, I inherently I am, because it's a long time coming. It is a long time coming. And, I mean, it's, you can't really put it into words until you I can't really say how I feel about it until I actually see it, because there's a lot of expectations going into this. So, the other day, Carrie Shawcross, one of the co-writers for RWBY, director of RWBY, he teased.
Calm down.
Oh,
we're not here for
hold on a
money.
second.
Joins late, sees my boy on screen. Well, I came at the right time. How are you doing tonight?
I am doing great.
Smiley
You joined
face.
at a perfect time, Lola. So I was just about to talk about the tweet that Carrie made. He made this tweet right here. People hoping to see Gunchucks this volume got me like, and it's the it's the gif of Shaq like doing that little jig dance, and people are fucking hype, dude. A lot of people are also skeptical. Like I read one tweet that somebody was like, it's not gonna be, you know, on the same level of Monty's version in volume 1. And personally, I don't think it should, number 1, and 2, I don't think it needs to strive to be. I always get a little upset when I see people, like, Monty was one of a kind. Like, truly, like, in every sense of the word. I look online and I've seen animations before, but I've never really seen animations to the scale and choreography.
Do you think they have
of
gotten
Monty.
the animator from Death Battle to rig Sun's Gunchucks? He is working on Sun for DBX. I hope so, because he choreography is excellent, which mean a great fight.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know who's working on it. I mean, I did hear about the Death Battle X stream, or the Death Battle X with Sun. So that could very well be like the correlation to how they were able to do that. But like, excuse me. I gotta take a sip of water after that one. But I always get upset when I see people talking about how fight scenes aren't as good as what Monty could do, or Volume 1 through 3 fights are better than Volume 4 and 5 fights, and basically comparing everything that RWBY does now in terms of animations, in terms of action scenes, to what Monty did. And to that, I think I would say, what do you expect? Like, I don't think I've ever seen someone choreograph fights like Monty did. And the vision that Monty always had was everything to him felt like a dance. Like, every type of choreography like that Monty incorporated into his fight scenes was like rhythm based on music. And I don't understand why people think that RWBY can just imitate that or emulate what Monty did. Like, I've already come to terms that, you know, regardless of what they do, they could put 110% into everything that they do. I'm never looking at these fight scenes and being like, that fight scene was really good. I wonder what it would have been like if Monty did it. Like, I don't know. I just feel like it's very disrespectful to look at it from that perspective. Like, we already know the situation. I feel like at the very least, people should just like bring their expectations down a lot if you're trying to compare something that Monty did compared to what RWBY is doing in terms of animation now. And the reason for that too is because he was the lead animator behind the show, and Shane was his right-hand man, and they got someone really prominent like Dylan Gu in Volume 3 to work on the show, but those people aren't there anymore, so they obviously have to hire different people, learn as they go. And I don't know, I've never in my entire life, like ever since, I mean, Crow versus Tyrion is probably the best fight in Volume 4. And that's definitely an example, but I would never compare it to something Monty did, because it just so happens that Monty didn't do that. So I shouldn't be comparing it to what he did, right? I should be judging it for the quality of the people who did work on it. And I can understand why people do that, right? Like, it was Monty's creation of the show, and it was his appeal, it was the appeal of his choreographed fights and his animation and all of that won a lot of people over for, I feel like, why a lot of people started watching the show, which is, I guess, it could be a good or a bad thing depending on how you look at it. But I don't know, like, I'm excited for this Gunchucks thing, not because I'm like, okay, I know what the Gunchuck fight looked like in Volume 1, I'm gonna see if they can do better than that. It's like, no, I'm excited about the Gunchucks because we haven't seen the Gunchucks in action since Volume 1. It doesn't matter who's animating it. Like, again, my opinion, my perspective, so I don't feel like a lot of people will correlate with what I'm saying, but I just don't, I don't know, I find it to be very... I'm all for RWBY learning. I'm all for RWBY improving and reaching an apex level of animation that a lot of people can enjoy and appreciate, right? You can be a critic of the animation all you want. You could be a critic of, like, oh, that wasn't fast enough, or this was slow, or this animation sequence looks weird. Personally, I don't find it anywhere in me to judge these people for the work that they do, because I can't do that shit. So who am I? Right? Who am I to really say? But more importantly, it's like, I know it's not easy, and whoever is doing this animation, if Sun's Gunchucks are coming back, and they're coming back in a rare form that we've, you know, on the scale that we can expect them to be in, right? Because the Gunchucks, we only have that barometer to go by, Volume 1, to go off of, like, what we can expect in terms of how Sun is going to use them. And that's enough for us to give an accurate, I guess, breakdown of whether it's good animation, or subpar animation, bad animation. But I just find it really in bad taste to compare everything that RWBY does to Monty. For the sake that's like, what do you expect? It's not going to be like Monty's animation, because only Monty's animation can be Monty's animation. So, I don't know. I rambled. I went on a bit of a tangent there. I never really talked about it either. It's something that I've always just, like, observed, and I'm like, okay, another person in the crowd stating the same thing as everybody else in the fandom. And I'm speaking generally, of course, but yeah, I don't know. I just find that to be very, it's like, I don't know. I feel like some people just are never satisfied. It's like, well,
Calm down.
I feel like most
We're
times it's
not
like,
here for your
well, how
money.
did you think the person who
Someone
animated it
mentioned
did
in
versus
chat that
comparing?
the person who voiced Blake said she had one of the hardest script to read for her character. Maybe son died sad face. Takes a bullet or a fireball for when Blake's parents. NYA.
I mean, she mentioned that one of her hardest lines was in Volume 5. We've actually already heard one of them. She tweeted out that, last chapter, the sequence with Ilya, like her talking about, like, the whole sequence with Blake and Ilya before Ilya, like, revealed, like, her feelings for Blake. She mentioned that whole sequence was one of the hardest things she's had to do. I don't think when she means the hardest thing, necessarily that it's a deep ingrained level of emotion. It can just be like, okay, you have to portray yourself as Blake in a very saddened state, and maybe that's just something that it's hard for her to do that. It doesn't have to be like the most dire situation for us to imply that, but I don't know. It could be Ilya dying, right? I feel like that's even more of that's just as much of a validation for her to like really like dig deep into that character to portray, you know, to portray that level of sadness to the viewers. So, oh, I'm sorry, Legend. I apologize. I didn't mean to go like down the sad route. It's just, I mean, it should already be like a level of acceptance for people to be like, okay, you can still, I mean, it's like Max, like I know you said Max in the chat, you said you want a fight scene that's enjoyable to watch. And at that point, it comes down to, that's a person-by-person basis at that point. Like, one man's trash is another man's treasure. And I'm completely understandable for that. I just don't like when people, like, compare things to what Monty did. And it's like, well, we're never going to get that. So I don't know why people are so adamant about bringing it up every single fucking time. It just gets under my skin. So, I know we're almost done with the discussion, but I finally caught a stream, thank God. Yeah. Blake has her own harem. Yeah, I mentioned that last chapter. I was like, Sun likes Blake, Adam likes Blake, Ilya likes Blake. They're kind of teasing for like what could be a Bumblebee dynamic with Blake and with Yang and Blake. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, like, does any other character in the show have a love interest besides to Blake or any other cat? Well, granted, we rarely, well, I mean, other than the obvious, right? Like Ren and Nora and, you know, Jean and Pyrrha, you know, other than those, obviously. But it's like, Jesus Christ, like, I don't know. And those have always been one-sided, right? Like, even the ships that we have now have always been one-sided, like, right? For Pyrrha and Jean, it was Pyrrha's affection to Jean that kind of solidified it by the end. And for Ren and Nora, it was Nora towards Ren until until the last volume where Ren kind of reciprocated. So it's always been, the impetus has always been on the female to kind of, not her to make the move, but it's always, the female's always been the one to express that level of affection to the other one. So, can we change the Can we change the picture? Shaq is scaring me. Oh yeah, I'll change it for you, Dan. I didn't realize I kept it up for that long. Oh man. Alrighty, so, and I just put it, I'm sorry, I just brought it back. I didn't mean to do that. So, yeah, so I guess at this point, we're kind of rounding off at the very end here. And this is just going to be, again, like, reiterations of what I've already mentioned earlier. But, you know, Raven's trying to use the whole scenario of the fall of Beacon and Crow's bad luck and Team Ranger and company with Cinder and company and the White Fang and the fall of Beacon and, you know, the chaos and turmoil and distress. She's trying to use all of that as a general distraction to get to the relic, right? She has Vernal already, so she has the key in her possession. It's just a matter of, and you know what? You know what I can picture too? Oh my god. You know what I can picture too? You know, like how she has a portal to Crow, right? I can see it now. I can see Cinder and all of them, you know, Cinder and company, you know, hiding away, like waiting to ambush Crow. Crow and Team Ranger show up at Leo's office, you know, invited there, you know, staged and all that stuff, invited there. But Raven's not with them, right? And Vernal's there too. Raven's not with them. I can very well picture as the whole shebang goes off, Raven activates her portal, which instantly connects her to Crow, and her whole Bronwyn tribe just runs through the portal, like, to help out. I could easily, like, that's just a bloodbath. Like, at that point, that's a massive fucking bloodbath. And I don't know if Raven would be willing to risk that, because that's all of her people dying for a cause that she wants nothing to do with either. But that'd be kind of crazy if she just, like, she's like, all right, they won't expect this, and then they all just run through her portal and, like, go to kind of thwart everything that's happening. I feel like that's a little bit much, and I feel like that's asking for a lot out of Raven. So, how far in? 2.5 hours, and we're at the very end of the chapter anyway, so I feel like the discussion is kind of coming back full circle. And Melissa, the bandits are weak, but that's the point. There's strength in numbers, right? An ant is weak, but an army of ants will body you. So I feel like they are, I mean, strength in numbers too, overwhelming forces. Even if they are weak, they're cannon fodder anyway. So at the very least, they'll add to the layer of distractions that are already apparent. Some people are probably going to be like, what the fuck are bandit tribes? What are tribesmen doing here? What are bandits doing here in Mistral? You know?
Calm down. We're not here for your money.
Hey!
So we cannot compare volumes 1 to 3 story to the newer volumes because Monty is not involved?
That's the structure of the story is very different than the structure of how they go about animating. Animating is a case-by-case basis, and they can't predict how animations are going to be down the road. Like, that's not an accurate I get what you're trying to say, but the comparison, you can't really make that comparison. You can't make the comparison of the story, Monty's story, because they're years down the line in terms of telling the story. They have volumes upon volumes already outlined. So it's not the storytelling that can't be compared. It's the fact that we all know where the crowning jewel of animation when it came to fight scenes came from. It came from Monty and Shane. Like, they were at the forefront. Not to say they're the only two that did it, but they were at the forefront with that animation. With that foundation gone, you can't expect that level of quality to still be the status quo. It's not possible, especially with someone like Monty whose choreography was really one of a kind. So that's the point that I'm trying to make, especially since now there's different people working at Rooster Teeth. So you can't have the same apples to apples animation you did 3 years ago than you do now. You can try to bridge that gap, but I don't necessarily know if that's something worth, if that's really something that people are expecting to happen. So yes, you can compare the volumes because the story of volumes 1 through 3 is very much tangible with the current story being told. If you want to compare it that way, animation, like, the story is intact no matter what. The story is constant no matter what. Animation is a different story. Like, different people, not the same people, don't do all of the animations for the show. So animation can very well be seen from a person to person basis, animator to animator basis. but everyone is looking at it from the same perspective. They're always looking at it with the lens of, they're always looking at it with like the Monty lens, and I feel like it's like a losing battle at this point. So yeah, I hope that clarifies what I meant, or just the overall discussion of that. Let's see. Yeah, and before anyone gets the wrong idea, I'm not saying that RWBY is like shit or anything like that. Like, clearly they have all improved in their own right over the years. It's just the fact that, like, so much of this show was riding on the fact, like, of Monty's animation. Like, his animation, his style was just so different, and it was so unique that it's very apparent. It's clearly apparent. Anybody with eyes can tell that the way that the fights were structured in the first 3 volumes are not consistent with Volume 4 and Volume 5, and you don't have to be a rocket science to understand why, right? You like, from Volume 4 and on, right, or even Volume 3 and on, to that extent, you can kind of look at it from that perspective of consistency moving forward, because everyone is intact. The team is all together. No one is gone. No one is left. No one's been let go. You know what I mean? And from here on out, we can easily see how animation will improve and get better over the years. But to compare it to the first 3 volumes, which are a very special case, it's like comparing apples to oranges, to be quite frank. Dan, you have yourself a good night. Thank you for joining. I will see you, if you're able to join, next weekend for Chapter 10. And next weekend is the last episode before the holiday break, the following week on the 23rd. So we'll have the last discussion next week before the holidays. Well, time to moderate all by myself. Let's do it. Well, I appreciate it. Hunt. Thank you very much. So yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, that's kind of the overall gist of what I wanted to mention. Hello, just got here. What I miss? Pretty much everything. I've been streaming for about 2.5 hours. We're on the tail end of the stream right now, talking about basically Raven's idea to kind of utilize this whole the commotion and the distractions of everyone fighting at the Fall of Haven for her chance to get the relic. Especially since Hazel and Adam and the entire White Fang is going to be there. I don't think Tyrion's going to be there, though. But, like, just the fact that Hazel is there, too, and Adam is there, too, and the White Fang, and Cinder, and Watts, and whatever Watts has up his sleeve, right? Maybe, I wonder if no, I don't think he does. No, he doesn't have any, like, if he has his own mechs, right? Like, his own version of machines that, he's going to use as his own variant for, mechanized forces, kind of like what they did at the Fall of Beacon, but under his jurisdiction. Like, they're going to try to get the relic, and I feel like that's a bad idea. Especially since, right, like, who knows what this relic is capable of, right? Like, what if you have to have, like, a strong sense of will? Or what if you have to be, like, what if the relic expects a lot out of you? Like, what if you have to be worthy in order to wield a relic? Like, what would a normal, like, what would the, like, I'm thinking about this, what's this from? So, I'm not saying it's, like, bloodline related, but in Final Fantasy 15, the Ring of Lucis, the only way you can wear the ring is if you're if you're a part of the Lucis bloodline, or if you are considered worthy, right? In the movie, Kingsglaive, what's his name? Nyx, right? At the cost of his life, though, spoiler alert, by the way, if you haven't played Final Fantasy 15 or watched Kingsglaive Final Fantasy 15, the ring basically is like, it's basically the housing of, like, the founders of the Lucis bloodline and the gods and all that stuff. And if you were not Lucis bloodline and you put that ring on, it would, like, kill you. Like, you would burn to death. And there's this one character, Nyx, who was worthy, right? He was not of bloodline, but he was worthy enough to where he used the power of the ring to save his home at the cost of his life. But it worked, but there was obviously an ultimate sacrifice. I'm wondering if the relics are going to have any type of rebound effect to that extent. Like, like, I can understand Ozpin, right? Ozpin, you're like almighty, all powerful. You're a wizard. You got all this magic. I can see you getting a pass. I can see any of the maidens getting a pass. I can see Salem getting a pass. But a random Joe Schmo, I can't picture any random house running up, grabbing the relic, and being like, now this is mine. I can very well see, like, there has to be a level of entry, right? Not anyone should be able to just pick up one of these things and use it. So, I do feel like that might be the rebound effect for Raven. If Raven's like, hey, I need this relic so that way I have my ass covered for the future, and she like goes to get the relic and it's like, nope, and something happens to her. I hope she doesn't lose her arm, because then she's gonna be in the same boat as her daughter. But no, Joe Schmo Joestar? Oh god, is there really a Joe Schmo Joestar? I also haven't watched JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. I just know of it. My friend Darian's a huge fan of JoJo's. Yeah, Kingsglaive Final Fantasy, Nightwolf, I agree with you 100%. Kingsglaive Final Fantasy 15 is the best Final Fantasy movie. Better than Advent Children, better than Spirit Within, definitely better than Spirits Within. Especially for the production value. If you're a Final Fantasy VII fan, you're obviously going to have a bias to that statement. But yeah, I absolutely love Kingsglaive. Production looked great. It's obviously way better looking than 15 for sure. Had a great story. The only thing that sucks is that it's not a self-contained story because it's tethered to a video game, which is also tethered to its own like unique anime. So it kind of falls apart. But standalone, very good. So, what's your ideas of a cyborg Grimm? I don't think that's possible. I don't think that's possible, unfortunately. Let's see. You're a wizard, Ozpin. That was the title of my reaction last weekend. Yeah. Can we talk about how Raven going to Crow in bird form? What do you think will happen? Yeah, so that's the next thing I should be getting to. Yeah, right here. So what I think is going to happen, she's going to inform them on what's happening, and they're going to plan a counter. Well, I talked about this earlier too, but they're going to plan a counter.
I wonder what was the attraction between Ty and Raven. Like, what did Raven see in Ty and vice versa? I hope I said that correctly.
Yeah.
Just curious. Much love, bro.
Thank you very much. I'm wondering about that dynamic too, because it seems like Raven is very stern. She's very cold, ruthless. All the traits that you definitely, I mean, she's strong. She's independent. She's, those are great qualities to have in a woman, but I still feel like she has to have this she has to be like a tsundere. Like, she has to be like tough on the outside, sweet on the inside. And I do feel like that was probably a moment where her and Ty, like where he took advantage, like, not took advantage, let me rephrase that, where he made his move. That's what I meant to say. Where he made his move and, something came of it. I don't know if it was long-term. I don't know if it was like a spark, like a spur of the moment kind of thing that ended up with her having a kid. That's very much a thing that I feel like could have very well have happened, especially how much she talks down to him now, calling him a fool and all that shit, and seems to like want nothing to do with any of them. So, I do think that, Ty seems enamored by her too. He was like, Raven was amazing in so many ways. Her determination, her resolve, her ability to, the way that she saw, her resolve in fighting for any cause that she thought that was worth fighting for. But clearly she had faults, and, those things tore the family apart over time. So, I don't know. I feel like maybe she's become so distant and cold that it's very hard to see that in her. And there's no reason. I feel like the proof is going to be in the pudding if she ever sees Ty again, right? And, only time can tell from that. Do you think we will ever get to see Ruby use her eyes? Do you think that she will show, it will show her mastering and learning to control them? I think we will see her eyes again. I don't think it'll be for like another volume or so at this point, unless something devastating happens in the next 5 chapters that, leads us to imply that she would need to use them again. I really want there to be another silver-eyed being in the world that basically mentors RWBY. Unless Ozpin created the Silver Eyes as well, like maybe that's a splash of his magic, you know, weaved into a bit of genetics, right? Unless he created the Silver Eyes, because he knows that fairy tale. So unless he was a silver-eyed warrior in a past life, or, you know, they exist out there, but in small numbers, I'd love for her to be under the mentorship of like a wayward silver-eyed warrior who lives on his own out there somewhere and realizes like, oh, I have to teach you how to master your powers because you can do great good in the world, like a hermit almost. I think that would be, I'd really like to see that. That seems very tropey as well, but I'd love to see that. I really, really, really hope we get to see something like that more than the obvious of like, oh, Ozpin's gonna tell her, or she's gonna learn it through experience the hard way, unfortunately. You know? Let's see. I'm reading the chat really quick, guys. Just trying to catch up on what you guys are saying. Do you think Oscar will ever reject Ozpin and turn, well, I wouldn't say turn evil, but I can definitely see there being a dynamic where Ozpin's like, we need to do this, and Oscar's like, no, I don't want to, and Ozpin like forces him to, or takes over control. I can definitely see that happening. The saddest day in the world is gonna happen when we see Oscar and Ozpin and you can't tell who's who. That's gonna be the saddest day in the world for Oscar. Because it's like Ozpin wins, like Ozpin gets the body that he. I don't know. I feel very conflicted with Ozpin regarding all of that because it's like, I feel like he is all that is retained, right? You don't hear any of his other past lives mention or say anything, even though he says our souls are combined and I'm forever changed. But it always seems like there's one person talking, not a multitude of different personas merging over a span of thousands and hundreds of years. So I do feel like Ozpin is lying. He's like, yeah, we merge and, you know, I'm forever changed, but my memories stay with me. I do feel like it's more like I eventually assimilate to the person, to the host, and eventually take them over. And they cease to be. And, you know, I get my new body. So I'm dreading that day. That's the day that I'm dreading. I'm dreading the day when like someone goes up to Oscar and is like talking to Oscar, but it's Ozpin who's talking. So, or maybe Oscar will win. Maybe Oscar will break that mold and he'll be like, no, I'm winning. And, you know, Ozpin ceases to exist, especially if it happens after Salem's defeated, right? I feel like if Salem's defeated, then Ozpin's objective will have been met, the curse will be lifted, and he'll actually be able to pass on. But then again, there's still not enough information for us to really know what's true and what's false. So you can't really say for sure. Speak of the devil, we got these two guys. So I found this to be interesting too because he was like, Ozpin needs to speak with you. And it seemed like a consensual thing, right? So up until, and I was just talking about that too, up until recently, there have been moments here and there where it shows like Ozpin just taking over Oscar's body without consent or without like verbal consent for the viewers to know about. And I felt like that was a warning. I was like, oh God, this is like the early phase. Like these are like the early telltale signs of Ozpin, you know, getting more and more control to the point where it's like Oscar's not even gonna be able to control himself because Ozpin will just take over whenever he wants. But I do like here that Oscar is like, this is like a premeditated attempt. He's like, Ozpin needs to speak with you. And the fact that he says that, and Ozpin's like right here. The severity of what he has to talk about is probably to the point where they're like, hey, we need to go somewhere because this is like private. Even though he just told the students a few chapters back, no more lies, no more half-truths. He's still keeping things from them. So, and then Raven shows up too, like you hear the cawing outside. So Raven just showed up. Ozpin needs to talk to Oscar. Ozpin needs to talk to Crow. Raven's here to talk to Crow. Raven and Ozpin don't really see eye to eye, or at least Raven doesn't see eye to eye with Ozpin. This is all so confusing to like keep in mind when I'm talking. Like I'm jumbling over my words. I apologize, but it's gonna be interesting to see this whole conversation and this whole interaction, seeing what it's like for Raven to talk to her brother, seeing what it's like for Raven to find out that Oscar is Ozpin, and all that stuff. I really hope we get that in the coming episodes, in the coming weeks as well. Oh, someone asked, did I go to the bathroom? No, I know I went through a bottle of water and I haven't had to use the restroom yet, which is very surprising because usually, actually, I think I went to the restroom before the stream started, so that's where most of the credit is going to. But yeah, I went through a bottle of water for the stream, so I'm good.
Calm down. We're not
Hey,
here for your
Crimson
money.
Mute, how's it going?
You think it would be plot twist if they defeat Salem, but Oz orders them to let her live because she dies. He
No.
dies, and then with her
Fuck
out
that.
the picture,
No.
he can live as Remnant's immortal ruler.
No, God no, hell no. That defeats the purpose of everything. He's like, yo, we need to stop Salem, but I don't want her to die. What? What? No, like, no, absolutely not. I don't even want to humor the idea. Get that shit out of here. I appreciate the donation, I appreciate the question, but no. I expect something else out of that, though. I don't expect Salem to be the end-all, be-all. Now, I'm not talking about, like, oh, like, you thought it was Salem, but it's really me, Dio. Like, I'm not saying, like, oh, we all thought Madara was the final boss, but it turns out it was Kaguya. Or we thought it was Black Zetsu. Oh, we thought it was, we thought it was Pain. We thought it, like, there were so many layers of bullshit in Naruto for who the real enemy was that by the time we got the final boss, it didn't fucking matter. I want to say that Salem is the overall, like the grand apex enemy, but I feel like it's also at the same time it's like, I feel like that sucks because like we got her so early compared to how long this show is gonna last, right? They said 8 to 10 volumes. I'm sorry, 10 to 12 volumes. That's the number Carrie threw out at New York Comic Con. Obviously, they can flesh it out if they have more to tell. But the outlinings, they said 20 volumes initially, but outlined, that's probably enough for 10 to 12. Or maybe even more. Like I said, don't quote me on that. But yeah, I feel like if we are going to 12 volumes, right, we get the big bad at volume 3, really. Like, we know who it is. We don't know what they're capable of. We know that they have a lot of people doing the dirty work for them. So maybe in order to get to the big bad, you have to go through all of the sub-bosses, like Cinder and Tyrion and Watts and the White Fang. Like, so maybe all of these subcategories are the objective, and then Cinder is the final boss. I can understand that as well, but at the same time, there's no surprises at this point. We already know who we're fighting against. So I feel like there's no real surprise at this point. Besides, like, New Grimm. Like, that's, like, the closest thing that we're gonna get to new adversaries is New Grimm types, really. Hey, what's up, Kim? How's it going? Wow, better late than never. I've been streaming for almost 3 hours. And we're at the very... kind of the end of the discussion. How's work going for you? Thanks for joining. And then, obviously, the final confrontation here. These two... I feel like nothing else can be said. Did you see what I just tweeted? I have not seen what you just tweeted. Hold on. I will check right now. But yeah, I don't... For Blake and Ilya, I feel like the time for talking is done. Everything that needs to be said has been said. Everything that needed to be said and heard has... They've picked their... Ilya has made her choice. Ilya's made her choice. She's picked her side. There's really nothing more to say. Like, she was willing to kill off your family. She was willing to send you to Adam. You know, she's willing to hurt people for her cause. What more can there be said? Like, it comes down to action at this point.
Calm down. I'm not here for your money.
Hold on.
Hey, man.
Pigeon!
Sorry, I'm late. Random thought. With all the Oz references, Ozpin, Glinda, Ironwood, Lionheart, probably some Scarecrow headmaster. I wonder if there is a character representing Dorothy that we don't know about.
Yeah, there is. Ruby Rose. I would say Ruby is Dorothy. Some people so the Scarecrow, I think that is Crow. I think Crow is the Scarecrow from The Wizard of Oz. But I actually think he is. I think Monty confirmed that. But no, a lot of people will say either Ruby or Summer. I'm more aligned with saying Ruby, and another parallel to that too is Zwei could be considered as Toto, like Dorothy's dog, and that's Ruby's dog. So that's another parallel. And on top of that, Dorothy had those ruby slippers, and that's the character's name in Ruby. So I think Ruby is a parallel or like another inspiration of Dorothy from The Wizard of Oz, and Toto is why, and the ruby slippers in The Wizard of Oz is a parallel to her name or a reference to Ruby's name. So that's what I personally think. There has been no confirmation if that is the case. A lot of people say that Summer is also could be Dorothy because she came before, and it seems like she's already been down this path before she died. So Summer could very well be the same thing. And Ruby seems to be a spitting image of her mother as well. So, what if Dorothy was the headmaster? Well, there's no... I wouldn't even think about that because we don't know anything about the last headmaster. So rather than like, I'm going to work with what I have versus working with speculations and, you know, things that I don't necessarily know. All right. Hold on. Give me a second, guys. I'm on Twitter. I gotta just double check on something. Oh my god! Oh my god, congratulations! Holy shit! Okay, okay, really quick. So, Kim Newman, in the chat, works at Rooster Teeth. She's an animator for RWBY. And, she told me to check Twitter because she just asked me if I saw Twitter. And she tweeted out, "Just got the thumbs up to share some exciting news. I got promoted to assistant lead animator for the 3D team at Rooster Teeth." Oh my god, that is so great. Congratulations. I'm so happy for you. Holy shit. That is so great. Alright, so she's the assistant. Hold on, give me a second. I just lost it on my phone. No! Hold on, I gotta find it again. So everyone, if you have, yeah, so she's the assistant lead animator. So you guys can go to her for all of the animation questions and concerns and whatnot. Leave good things. Kim is awesome. Holy shit. Congratulations, Kim. Oh my god, that's so great. That's great news. I wish I knew that sooner. Who's the lead animator right now? Is that I want to say Joel? Is Joel the lead animator? Just tweeted. I just tweeted it out on the second day of the job. Oh, okay. Good shit. I have two lead animators, Dustin and Joel. Yeah, yo, you guys do such a great job. Dustin and Joel are good guys too. They're good people. You guys actually make a good team. Like, I feel like you guys, like, because I've kind of, like, I've been there and I've kind of seen how you guys interact. I feel like you guys just have, like, a really good chemistry. Like, the three of you guys as a team, not just as friends, but also people who work on a show. I think that's really good. Dustin, that's who I meant. Yeah. Good shit. That's a great way to leave off on the stream, too. Well, one more thing I gotta say right here is, Blake, Ilya has the high ground, Anakin.
Raven, they came for the spring maiden. Quick, Vernal, go and spy upon our foe who has come to claim you.
I guess they can go that route. But yeah, Ilya in this screenshot, Ilya is basically, she's basically Anakin. She's got the high ground, so Blake's gonna have some trouble. Arnold, I wanted to share this. Weiss Schnee is nominated for Best Animated Main Character of 2017 for the TV Animation Awards, and everyone should go vote for her. Oh, wow, really? Give me the link. Send it to me on Twitter or something. I'll definitely spread that out. Weiss is my favorite character for Team RWBY. Someone sent me this pin, actually. I'm actually, like, fidgeting with this Weiss pin. So it's kind of crazy that you just mentioned that, because I've been fidgeting with this thing for a few minutes now. Yeah, send me the link on Twitter, and I'll post it out.
We're not here for your money.
J-Rock!
I have a final question for you before end of stream.
Sure.
Are you a Xenoblade fan? I will donate $60 right now to get you Xenoblade 2.
No.
I don't have any friends who play the game, and I really want to talk about it. Anyways, have a good night and take care.
I really appreciate that offer. I am a Xenoblade fan. I love the first Xenoblade Chronicles on the Wii. I feel like that was like one of the hidden gems on the system. But I don't want you to pay for it for me. I don't want you to donate $60. Like, I appreciate it greatly. It's the holidays. I mean, you donate like every stream already. So I'd much rather you save that for yourself. I will eventually be able to buy the game myself, and I'll be able to play with you then. But no, I do appreciate the offer. Like, don't get me wrong. I don't feel right accepting that, even though, you know, it's your choice to do so. But I promise when I get Xenoblade, because the next two games I'm getting for my Switch, the only two games I have for my Switch right now are Mario and Zelda, and those are single player games. So I do want to, I didn't even know Xenoblade was multiplayer, so that's even cooler. But, I want to be able to get Mario Kart 8, I think, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, and Xenoblade Chronicles. Those are the two games that I want to get next. And I'd absolutely be, I'd be willing to play with you in the future, but I mean, dude, you already do enough. You just subbed to me on Twitch. You just donated earlier today as well. You've donated for the last couple of streams, so I definitely want to work towards getting that myself, but I do appreciate the offer. Oh, it's a single-player game. Oh, okay, never mind. So you want someone to talk to about it. Yeah, so I played the first Xenoblade Chronicles. Unfortunately, I don't own it anymore because I don't play my Wii, and it was at I sold it during a time... Wait, do I still have it? I think I still... Hold on a second. Give me 1 second. I'm gonna... Alright, well, the general stream is done at this point. Give me 1 second. I have to... I'm gonna look in my closet is, like, packed with stuff. So I'm gonna have to, like, survey... Hold on, you... Give me 1 moment here. Let's see. But yeah, I love Xenoblade Chronicles. The first one on the Wii. I didn't play a lot of games on the Wii. I only played... On the Wii, I played Super Smash Brothers and JRP... for any of you guys who are wondering, JRPGs are my favorite genre of video games. So, so naturally, I do enjoy, like, those kind of video games. And I played Xenoblade Chronicles when it first came out. Before, like, now it's like super hard to find. It's, like, almost exclusive to find, like, a GameStop and stuff like that. The game's like 8 years old and it's still $60. Some even priced higher because they came out in limited quantity. JRPG weeb. Hey! I take offense to that. No, I'm just kidding. So give me 1 second. Have you played Golden Sun? I never got to play Golden Sun. I wasn't a big handheld player. So I think Golden Sun was on the Game Boy Advance, and the only games I played on the GBA was Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, I played a little bit of the Mega Man Battle Network. And that was really it. I was a console gamer through and through. A Pokemon game came out, I bought it. A Yu-Gi-Oh! Trading card game came out, I bought it. But other than that, I really didn't.
When Ozpin
Kingdom Hearts
said
also.
He was cursed, he said gods, so it was when the gods were individuals. Salem might be a Grimm made by the god of darkness, and Oz was made as a countermeasure from the god of light to fight her, since the brothers were always going at it.
Yeah, that's true. I do also feel that they were brothers though. So hold on. Salem might be a Grimm made by the. Okay, so you might. Okay, so you're saying that she was a god. I'm sorry, she was the creation, like a highly advanced Grimm. I don't know. We don't even really know if we can believe that story because it was told to Crow by Ozpin. So, like, everything that we've been told, we have to, like, look at it. We have to be skeptical at this point because we know that Ozpin is known to hide the truth or to stretch the truth or to tell half of the truth, not all the truth, lie, and, you know, stuff. I feel like we've very rarely gotten straight up truths from Ozpin. So, that story of the gods, he could be one of the gods, and Salem could be the other one. In physical form, in reality, at this current present time, still fighting centuries later, being descendants of the original gods. So we really can't take anything that Ozpin has said at whole value, as wholesale. But give me a second. I'm gonna leave you guys with some music to listen to. I'm gonna be back in 2 minutes. I'm gonna just go through my closet right now and see if I have Xenoblade. Also, for any of you guys who are wondering what song I played during the intro of the stream, it's in the description. So give me 1 second. I will BRB. Oh, hold on a second. Alright, so I'll be right back. Alrighty, so I couldn't find it. I actually couldn't find any of my PS2 games either. My closet is literally like, it's a walk-in closet, but it's literally packed. So I really didn't have a lot of room to work with. So I just looked initially. I'll have to re-look for it, but if I can find it by next stream, I'll definitely flaunt it. No, my name's Arnold. My name's not Aaron. That's the name of my best friend. My best friend's name's Aaron. My name's Arnold. Don't feel bad. I get it. People get it mixed up all the time. Some people call me Arnold. Some people call me Aaron. Some people call me Arthur. Like, usually the A's kind of do it for them. But, no. Arnold. That's my name. Don't wear it out. Yeah. Oh, so someone in the chat asked what that music was. So, it's a YouTube channel. They're called Hyper Potions. And, they're the guys who collaborated with Sega to do the intro song for the animation for Sonic Mania. The new Sonic game that came out this year, the 2D Sonic game. And, they've become, like, my absolute favorite. This song that I just played is called Ski. It's basically like a holiday song. They're, like, one of my absolute favorite, like, music channels on YouTube. So, and the song that I played earlier, like, when the stream started, that song is called Surf. And, that's also made by them. That's in the description. If you click the link in the description, the one for, like, the song intro, it'll bring you to their channel, and you can just see all of the music there. So, yeah, you'll be able to find it that way. Let's see. I say don't wear it out, and then everyone's saying, hey, oh yeah, that's another thing, too. Hey, Arnold. That's the story of my life. That greeting right there is the story of my life, and it's all because of the TV show Hey Arnold, which was also one of my favorite cartoon shows growing up as a kid. Taught me a lot of life values. I think that was, like, one of the more, like that was, like, one of the best shows out there because you could actually learn stuff from it. It's not, like, just mindless, like, random stuff. Actually, never mind. I take that back. I feel like all the shows kind of taught you stuff growing up. Like Doug. A lot of people thought Doug was boring. I loved Doug. Like Doug, Hey Arnold, even Rugrats. Like fucking babies teaching you life lessons and stuff. But yeah, so that is the live stream. That is the discussion. Arthur the Aardvark. I never really watched Arthur. I was very rarely watching PBS. I mean, after I was like a little kid when what's it called came out, Barney. I loved Barney as a kid. My brother was terrified. Oh man, sidetrack before I end the stream. So I remember one day, my mom, my brother, and my sister. This was like I think this was like 1998. I think makes me sound really fucking old, but we went to the grocery store. There was a grocery store. It was called Hi-Lo, Hi-Lo. So a place called Hi-Lo, and there was a Barney outside, like giving balloons to kids as they were coming out and leaving, and like taking pictures. So like one of the earliest pictures that I ever remember taking was with Barney, and I loved Barney as a kid. Like my mother put that show on, and I was just like, yo, get out of here, woman. I'm good. So I loved Barney as a kid. My brother watched it too. And there's like this giant dude in a Barney suit, and I'm so happy. I'm like giving him hugs. I'm getting pictures. He gives me a balloon, and then my mom goes with my little brother, and my brother's just screaming at the top of his lungs, terrified, like mortified out of his mind by this Barney, and I'm like, what the hell? Like, I think back on it, like, it was a rational fear. Like, he's not, like, terrified of, like, clowns or anything like that, and it's not, like, he was never traumatized by that, but it's just so funny to think back on now, because I was like, dude, you were afraid by some dude in a Barney. Like, you're afraid of Barney, is what you're basically saying. So, I just found that incredibly hilarious, and I'm not to diminish anyone who actually has, like, phobias like that, but personally, like, as a kid, I was just like, how the hell could anyone be afraid of Barney? He comes to life in your classroom and just like does a bunch of stuff and a bunch of work, and it makes you clean up, which I used to hate cleaning up as a kid. So he taught you how to clean up and do all that awesome stuff. Yep, and then the I love you, you love me, we're a happy family. With a great big hug and a kiss from me to you. Won't you say you love me too? All right, and with that said, that's the end of the stream. That's a terrible way to end the stream. I apologize. But yeah, so this week was really good. Had a lot of stuff to talk about. My reaction for the chapter. Hopefully, Dude! Oh, bro.
I enjoyed the discussion, and it got me through work today as usual. Have a good one, and enjoy the game. J-Rock.
I told you not to donate the money for the game, and you did it anyway. Thank you very much. I guess I guess at this point I'll accept it as a Christmas gift. I appreciate the support. Like, you definitely did not have to do that. You do enough already around on the streams and, you know, on the channel in general. The support, I appreciate it. I gotcha at the end. Yeah, exactly. Thank you so much for that. I will download the game tonight, and I will send you. Well, you're on my Discord now because you subbed on Twitch, so I'll talk to you on Discord. We can exchange friend codes, and I will check out the game and see what it's all about. I wasn't planning on being able to play it anytime soon, and there are certain games that I want to be able to play off stream, right? Because I'm already streaming Zelda and Mario on Twitch, and I don't want to have to stream every single game that I play. Like, I very much enjoy the experience of just playing a game by myself. And on top of that, streaming, like, mentally, it's like you have to be on. Like, you have to be on, like, for the audience, for the people that are joining, for the entertainment and everything like that. So this is definitely going to be a game that I'm going to be definitely playing on my own and probably getting a lot further than the games that I'm streaming. So yeah, thank you very much for that. And as I was going to say, my reaction, hopefully, fingers crossed, it doesn't get blocked this week. Also, if any of you guys have not seen my reaction to Chapter 8, you guys probably noticed over the weekend, last weekend, that my Chapter 8 reaction was blocked on Saturday and Sunday. For some weird reason, it got blocked, and it wasn't able to be unblocked until Rooster Teeth got to it on Monday, because they don't operate on the weekends. So my Chapter 8 reaction is up on the channel now. Hopefully my Chapter 9 one goes through swimmingly without any issues, without anything like that. So my reaction for that will be up. I'm working and brainstorming on a lot of video ideas for after RWBY's done, because, you know, when RWBY's done, I'll have a lot more time to kind of flesh out and do other things, go back to doing Red versus Blue videos, streaming on Twitch full time, during the time of the off season for RWBY. I kind of want to start doing gaming videos again, but at the same time, hold on a second. Let's see. Oh, I'm sorry. Anime is art. I did not see your post. Give me 1 second. Are humans the real evil in RWBY? Grimm were created first, and Crow stated faunists are older than humans, making humans the third creation. How can Grimm be evil if they're the first sentient life on Remnant? Well, the Grimm are inherently evil, quote unquote, because they are born of the malice and manifestation of the Brother of Darkness, who was known for spreading diseases, famine, destruction, and, I mean, I don't know anyone who thinks any of that stuff is good. So, you know, the Grimm themselves, though they might be the first creation, they are inherently a force of negativity, of malice, and they don't mean to bring any good fortune or blessings to anyone that they come across, and that's based on the will that created them. So yeah, I mean, that's how life works. It's like you condemn that which, you know, harms you. You know, life is precious, and, you know, the gift of life and all of that stuff. And, you know, diseases and plagues and famine and, you know, destruction and evil and hate. Like, I don't know anyone who welcomes that with open arms. So I don't see at all a reason why the Grimm aren't evil, I guess I should say. So yeah, hopefully that answers your question or puts it into a little bit more perspective. Thank you as well for the super chat. I'm sorry I didn't see that earlier. I think you sent that when I was looking for my game, or maybe I just, you know, maybe it just slipped my mind. Let's see. Oh, actually, I fucked up because there's actually quite a few here that I didn't check out. Let's see. I hope Gira didn't get hurt. It would be a bit cliche for him to die and tell Son to take care of my family. I don't see that happening necessarily, but I mean, it is a bit cliche, but I'm a little bit more of the mind that I feel like it's a little harsh to kill off Blake's family simply for the sake of something like that, you know, especially since we're expecting them to die. That's Adam's word, that's Adam's wishes. Noticed eyes and choices seem to be the theme in RWBY. You're gonna like the video that I'm coming out with in a couple of weeks. I'm gonna be working on it over the actually I might release it during the holiday, but there is a video. Actually, I kind of want to wait until Volume 5 is done to see if that theme follows up. But the theme on choice in particular, I have an interesting little video that I want to share regarding that. So that's interesting that you said that. Kind of like eyes are the windows to the soul. We never see Adam's, so we never know what his true motives are. That is interesting. Something I kind of relate to that not relating to it, like obviously you guys see my eyes, but I kind of agree with that. You rock, Murder. Riga G, thank you very much for the super chat for that. I appreciate it. Yeah, okay, so I managed to get everything else on that. I apologize for not getting to those sooner. I don't know why I missed out on those. I think I got caught up in my ramblings a little bit more than I usually do. And the stream is 3 hours, which I'm really happy about that. Usually we teeter on the 3.5 to 4 hour plus moments when it comes to a lot of these streams. So thankfully everything is a little bit more intact and, straightforward. Hopefully people afterwards, like on YouTube, when this goes uploaded, enjoy it. But yeah, that is everything. So again, I really hope you guys enjoy. I hope you guys enjoyed today's stream. Thank you guys all for the support, especially all the people who donated, people who followed me on my Twitch streams, the super chats, you guys just being here every week. We had about 600 people in here, concurrently. So I'm really glad that, even though this is late too, right? This was supposed to be out on Tuesday. It is Thursday, and you guys' support has been incredible. You guys are still here. So I really do appreciate that. For those of you who are wondering, yes, I do know about the RWBY Chibi winter episode. I don't know if I'm going to be able to watch it, but I am planning on catching up and getting back to the RWBY Chibi episodes that I missed. If at latest when RWBY ends, I will be getting back to those first thing before I jump back to Red vs. Blue and everything else. But I know some of you guys are mentioning it in the chat. I know the chapter came out today. I haven't watched it. I've just been focusing on everything else since then. But yeah, you guys all have a good night. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Enjoy the reaction. It'll be out this Saturday. Also, remember, this weekend's chapter for RWBY Volume 5, Chapter 10, is the last chapter that we're getting for this, I'm not the last. I would say we're getting Chapter 10 this week. Next weekend, the 23rd, we are not getting a chapter. First members are not getting a chapter. It's for the holiday season. So just bear and keep that in mind. I think I'm going to make a PSA announcement video letting people know about that, just so people who aren't on Twitter or on the RT site or, didn't see that when they posted it about a few weeks ago, at least they know. But overall, yeah, that is the stream. I hope you guys enjoyed. Enjoy the rest of your night. For those of you who have school tomorrow or work tomorrow, be sure to work smarter, not harder, as always. And I will talk to you guys very, very soon. Take care.